Hello, friends. Welcome to Coding Garden. Yes, we have the Christmas tree drop game. It's Christmas time. Merry Christmas, everyone. In today's stream, we're going to be taking the State of JS 2022 survey. So I actually have never taken this survey before. What's up, Robert Tables? Thanks for the drop. I think that's what you did. That's why your name showed up. Nice. Oh, we didn't update this for animated emotes, though. Maybe we can do that at the start of the stream as people start to come in. But yeah, I cut my hair this week, so that was good. But the plan for today is to take this survey. Now, I have gone through the results of this survey in the past. So in the past, we have looked at the results and then kind of like looked into some of the things we hadn't heard of and tried some things out. But for whatever reason, I've never actually taken the survey. So today I'm going to take the survey, and I encourage you all to take the survey as well. Go to that link. You can take the survey. And let me add a command. Like that. So if anybody else comes in, !survey, we'll give them the link and they can take the survey as well. But yeah, welcome in, everyone. Yeah, Robert Tables says, I didn't take the survey yet either. It's so interesting because like I know a lot of people that look at the results of this survey, right? And to not have participated in it, you're not adding your viewpoints and your experience to it. So I definitely think I should have been doing it in the past. I'm definitely going to do it today. Yeah, it's almost 2023, which is crazy to think about. But welcome in, everybody. Like I said, we'll welcome everybody in, and then I think I will try to fix the drop game to show animated emotes. Is that going to be possible? We'll see how possible it's going to be. This is an old drop game. It's using the old server, so I have no idea how easy it's going to be to update for animated emotes. Now, Terawatt. I actually don't know what you mean. I know this is an Indian term. Is this offensive at all? Okay. An Indo-Aryan ethno-linguistic group associated with the Punjab region located in South Asia. Okay. You're saying I am one? I have no problem with that. There's a lot of people from India that watch the Coding Garden, so... Statney says, I've taken it every year. In the last 3 or 4 years, I just quit my bev dev job, though, so I don't know about the upcoming ones. Yeah, I mean, I think people of all types should take the survey. It doesn't just have to be employed people. I mean, people learning, people that are in between jobs. I think it makes sense to take the survey. And what's up, Lester Wolf? Welcome in. All right, let's say hello to everybody, and then we'll try to fix the drop game, and then we'll take the survey. Just got a new MacBook. Have I got the thing for you? Yeah, if you go to that GitHub repo, it has all of the stuff that I use on my MacBook. There's also a YouTube video. Do I link the YouTube video? I don't. But if you look on my YouTube channel, it's one of the most recent videos. Yeah. This one. Can we have a chat about ChatGPT? After we say hello, yes. Because... I only tried it slightly, and it's kind of amazing. And I've seen the posts, the posts that people have made on Reddit of like the things they've gotten it to do, and I'm baffled. So, I have the wrong link, Iamrose? What? Everything's going wrong. Coding Garden. Okay, so that's right because that's me, and then about. Twitch.tv/Coding Garden? Oh, I spelled it wrong. Well, good call. Thank you for noticing that. I'll have to fix that later. This one works, though. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. People say there will be no need for front-end devs in the near future. Do I agree? Potentially a different kind of front-end dev, but I don't think we're going to go away entirely. Don't even know my own name. But we'll talk about that in a second. Let's say hello to everybody. Welcome in, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Not many streams this week. Just a stream today and then a stream on Friday. But you're getting less Coding Garden this week. So I'll do my best to give you as much Coding Garden as possible today, right now. If you want to say hi, write a message that matches this regular expression. The easiest thing is to just literally say hi, because if you say hi with 2 I's, I won't say it, or hey with 2 Y's, I won't see it. So just say hi. I'll acknowledge you, and then we'll start doing some things. Welcome in Timon, who was here 39 minutes ago. Appreciate you. What's up, America 2050? And Turkler, hello, what's up, Pablo and Mark? Thanks for dropping in. What's up, Battle Fame and Java Guy and Clicky Poo and Stotney and Pete and Poplip and Nishark and BTRSL and Codex and Say Lolek. How's it going? What's up, Imposter Engineer? And I am Roos and Electrothermal. What's up, Crazy Vulcan and Lesterwolf and Terawatt and Ryan and Ibaldi and Wodude and Guelta and DeCollars and Tanner and DK D. Christian, welcome in. What's up, Robert Tables? Happy December to you as well. What's up, Mr. Jan and Oscar and Coldred and Ched? Howdy. What's up, DJ Concarne and XLB and Mesley and Curried Lambda? What's up, Baziz and WebDev2? Welcome in, everybody. Glad to see you. I'm going to avoid all those words for the expression of not being acknowledged. All right, I will not acknowledge you. What's up, Cool Fun? Welcome in as well. And Sipping Tears, thanks for being a first-time chatter. Appreciate you. Hello. And thank you, the log. Okay, what are we gonna do? I'm gonna look at the code for this drop game really quick to see if it's even gonna be possible to add animated emotes. Actually, let me just double check. Does it support animated emotes? Well, that's an animated emote from Franker Faces, so that didn't work. So Franker Faces doesn't even work. That's unfortunate. And then is there a timeout though? Yeah, I think there's like a 90-second timeout, so I'm gonna have to wait. Or we could just look at the code. And Sadej, welcome in. Okay, I can't do it on the client side. I guess I'd have to do it on the server side. That's some really old code. Yeah, there's collision in here. And also, like, if it lands on the tree, it'll knock off any other ornament that it touches. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to fix this easily. So maybe we'll just leave it as is. I'm going to look at one more thing. And I'm not showing my screen just in case I leak any environment variables. I don't want to do that. So. Wow, did ChatGPT really say that? What was your prompt to get ChatGPT to say that? Hey, Coding Garden community. I just tuned into the stream and I'm loving the content. Keep up the great work and happy coding. That's insane. Okay. ChatGPT is down. Oh, that's unfortunate. Let's see. We got BTTV emotes. We got Franker face emotes. We are missing 7 TV emotes. I think that's one of the main issues. Generate a Twitch message for Coding Garden stream. Are you kidding me? It said Coding Garden community? That's not good. That's really scary. Not scary. It's just like, it's all happening so fast, it feels like. But I'm just curious, like, the mechanics of it all. Like, what did they use as input to train it, right? Yeah, no, exactly, Codex. And I mean, we're gonna talk about that. Like, will it replace coding and stuff like that? Like, it'll definitely be something that potentially speeds up people's works and maybe like augments people's work. But I don't think it'll fully replace coding. Yeah. Yeah, exactly, Robert Tables. I agree with that. I hope AI replaces the parts of my job that are just uninteresting and let my brain do what it's best at. Yeah, and I think, I mean, if you think about technology in general, across all time, that's kind of what it has done. Like it frees up a lot of like more like manual labor, less important labor, so that we can focus on the things that humans are good at. Okay, I'm not gonna fix this. I'm looking at the code right now. That's why you can't see my screen. But I don't I don't feel like fixing it. It's really old code. I honestly need to update the drop game to use the more recent one. What is GitHub Next? Have I seen this? Investigates the future of software development. Is this just like has Copilot, or what exactly do you want me to look at here? Okay, so before we take the survey, let's spend 7 minutes talking about ChatGPT, and I'll pause this and just open it real quick if it's working. Oh, it's down. It's down. I can't look at it. So hey there. A lot of people are checking out ChatGPT right now. We're doing our best to make sure every person has a chance to try it out. So please check back soon. Oh well. Okay. Well, let's talk about it for 7 minutes. Give me your opinions in the chat. What are your concerns? What are your thoughts on ChatGPT? And I guess to give a little bit of background, it comes from the same people that did DALL-E and DALL-E 2, where you could give it a prompt and it will generate images based on that prompt. So it's from the same team, but now ChatGPT, you basically can just talk to it, and it's kind of scary how real and human it feels. So basically, it gives you a prompt where you can ask it a question, you can give it a prompt to say like, we're gonna do this thing, and it will respond, all right, I'm ready to do this thing. And every conversation you have with it is in context. So you send messages, and all of those, the next messages you send it, it can keep track of the previous messages. So you can have an actual dialogue with it. And so Nishark is saying, I just used it to complete a paper for a general education course. So you could say something like, hey, ChatGPT, we're going to write a paper about X topic. And then it will respond, okay, I'm ready to write a paper about X topic. Where should we start? And then you give it a starting point and it'll respond. It's kind of insane. I saw one post on Reddit where somebody generated a new language with it. And not a programming language, but like a spoken language with grammar that's like based on slimes, like goops and stuff. And it's crazy. It's crazy. It gets a lot wrong, but it's very cool. Yeah. So that's what ChatGPT is. It's basically like an AI chatbot that you can have a conversation with that knows a whole lot of things. And Tanner has a point here. AI assistants in code are like automation tools and autopilot in a plane. It helps a ton, but you still need a pilot to fly the plane. I think this is a great comparison because like pilots aren't going anywhere, right? I mean, I guess I don't know how big the industry is or how many pilots are actually employed, but planes have a whole lot of automation, but there's still an airline industry and there's still pilots that pilot those airplanes. Now, I guess you could say that pilots don't necessarily have as much prestige as they used to, because it used to be that like being a commercial airline pilot had a lot of prestige. Not necessarily anymore, but still, they still have jobs, even though the plane is completely automated. So people asking about, like, do I think it will replace coding? I don't think so. I think it'll be a tool that we use to help us code better. And a tool that will help us not have to deal with all the mundane things. Can we make a ChatGPT project on stream at some point? Yeah, I mean, if they have an API, what was crazy to me is I guess right now that it's in beta, there's no rate limiting. You can just talk to it as much as you want to. Eventually, they're probably going to turn it into a thing where you need credits like you do for DALL-E. But yeah, Clippy AI. I see that you're writing a distributed microservice. Yeah, and I think the point that Codex had earlier is the more complex things that aren't necessarily exactly code are going to be a lot harder for like an AI or Copilot or ChatGPT to figure out, like designing an architecture for a scaled system or something like that. But yeah, Tarawat says ChatGPT is boring. Why hire a front-end dev to generate a web app? Well, you can just give design and get the web page instantly. Yes, but I think so. There are different aspects of web development, right? There are like basic When I worked at a consultancy, we called them brochure websites. Basically, websites that are purely informational and are typically driven by a content management system. Um, those types of websites have we've already you can already replace coders for those types of websites, like because there are like WordPress plugins that make it so that people that don't know how to code can just drag and drop sections and can automatically, there's already an admin panel where they can update the site without code. Like that kind of thing essentially has already been replaced. If somebody wants something really custom, really bespoke, they're going to hire a front end dev. But that isn't the kind of front end dev that I typically do. Like I build applications. So I am a software engineer that uses web technologies to build applications. And that's very different from just a website with some content on it. When you think about like interactive applications, think of like Gmail, or even like a modern Reddit, or like TikTok in the web browser. Like those types of things aren't just a website. It is a web application that has state and multiple interactions and complex things that you can do. And to me, that is very different from completely front-end dev. And I do not think that right now ChatGPT could generate something like that, because that's a very complex process that isn't just about front end. It's also about all of the back end API design and the interaction between the front end and the back end and the database design and all of that. And I think we're pretty far from AI being able to take on that. So like that's my perspective on it. Like sure, it's going to replace the easy stuff like a landing page with a email sign up form. But the more complex things with complex architectures and complex user interactions, it's going to be really hard for that to be completely automated. So, yeah. It can generate NPC flavor text for my D&D games. Yeah, I guess that's the other thing. You could say like, hey, ChatGPT, I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons. And I mean, you honestly could have like probably have a conversation with it where you're literally almost like playing a text adventure game or something like that. Okay, so GitHub Next is the new projects they're working on with GitHub Copilot and stuff like that. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah. It can do all of your school homework for you, right? But I think here's the thing. Like, I never liked school. I never liked doing homework. I was always searching for shortcuts. I was also always searching for ways where I wouldn't have to do the homework. And to me, that's really just like the tinkerer hacker mindset of like doing as little as possible to get the thing done. Now, obviously, there are some benefits to like doing homework and practicing specific topics, but for a student like me, there's a lot of times I didn't want to do the homework, so I would do everything I could to not do my homework. Wolfram Alpha is a thing I used a lot in college because it can do like calculus and stuff like that. So that's a thing. It would be fun to make a project though. I'm concerned ChatGPT is going to send Arnold back in time. AI trains on our open source code. Sure, but it's like here's the other aspect of AI that like keeps it as a barrier for things, is that the people that created the AI don't even understand how it's coming to the conclusions that it's coming to, right? So most of it, all of it is based on neural networks, and it's basically like a little black box. Now, you could say, well, do you actually have to know how it works in order for it to be useful? I guess not, but at the same time, because of that, it can do some really silly or dumb things that to us look like a human would never make that mistake, or a human would never do something as simple or as dumb as that. And we don't necessarily have a way of looking at and understanding why it thought to do it that way. Now, but that also gets to the problem of and thinking about like what does it mean to have consciousness? Like, is an AI conscious? And like, or like, will it ever be? Like, will we ever completely match human consciousness? I don't think so. I think all of these AIs that we create are each doing one thing like really well, and I think you can have like a collective system of artificial intelligence that make up something that's closer to human consciousness. But I don't know. I think AI will not replace intelligence until we understand our own mind. Yeah, and that's kind of the point that I'm getting at, is like we don't even understand how consciousness in humans work. I mean, to an extent, like we try to understand like the brain chemistry and stuff like that, but like there's a lot of things we don't understand about consciousness itself. So it's crazy to think that we could create something that could replace ourselves when we don't really even understand ourselves. I don't know. Humans too stupid for computers to understand. Yeah. Used it to migrate Mongo to MySQL. That's actually really cool. But the thing is, like, this task right here, I would argue, and I would think that, yeah, that's totally fine. Like, I am okay with AI replacing jobs like this. Like, if it takes a programmer that's getting paid over $100,000 a year to write a script that converts from a Mongo database to a SQL database, I think that can be replaced because it's just like busy work, right? It's not anything too original. You're kind of just like mapping from one thing to another. Yeah, and I'm not saying database administrators are useless. I'm saying that is a task that overall is a fairly simple task that if you can automate it so that you can spend your time doing other things like optimizing queries or coming up with better structures for your database and stuff like that. That's really all I'm saying. Does AI code worse than humans? It only can code as good as humans code because it's learning from human code, right? Right? OpenAI APIs to create personalized holiday cards. See, so if we could tap into the ChatGPT API, that'd be cool. ChatGPT just built my entire app in minutes on his experience building an Angular. Let me just look this up really quick. ChatGPT just built my entire app in minutes. I asked ChatGPT to create a to-do app in Angular and it provided me with an unexpectedly accurate answer. How do I create a to-do app in Angular? Okay. Is that it? Did he give it any further prompts? I see. Okay. How do I create a new component called to-do list? Sure. How do I create a form? Okay. How do I use ng4? Sure. How do I create a function called talk? So here's the thing. Like, here's my takeaway from, I mean, obviously I haven't watched the whole video, but my takeaway is he wouldn't have been able to do this if he didn't already know how to make an Angular app, right? The kind of prompts that he's making is someone that already knows how to do these things. Now, I'm not saying it's not cool or not useful. What I'm saying is that this is essentially human assisted, right? Like, he had to know what he wanted and he's being very specific about it. Now, I mean, you could argue that potentially you could come up with like less specific prompts and it could still know what to do, but the way that he's handling it, to me, it's no more than just like copying and pasting from a tutorial, right? And in a way, you could think of like you could create really good learning tools with ChatGPT that can like take the contents of an article and convert it into a more interactive way to learn. And I think that's really cool because people learn better in that way instead of just like copying and pasting the code or whatever else. Yeah, and I guess the thing that iBaldi is coming up with is like if you add natural language into it, now you can just talk to a computer and tell it to build a to-do app, right? Cool. So if he had the same point in the video, that's great. I haven't watched it yet, but I'll definitely check it out later. And actually, I can link to it if anybody else wants to check it out. So yeah, and the Time, thank you for that resub. I guess I missed some other ones. Yeah, Acid Spark, thank you for the 32 months. Just keep counting. So yeah, AI might take a while. It's at the moment more like copy pasting Stack Overflow. Sure. Yeah. Right. Who's written those plugins for WordPress and who is maintaining them? Humans. I guess that's true, Terawatt. Right. Yeah. So like, so earlier to my point about there are WordPress plugins that let people drag and drop to create the interface and stuff like that. There's a team of developers behind that plugin, so you still need developers for that. Be a very useful mentor. Yeah, I think that's exactly the point that came across in the video. You could ask how to do something, and it could suggest you technologies and frameworks, etc. Right? I mean, also imagine even more human assist on that, right? So like a student or a learner makes a prompt ChatGPT comes up with a response, and then you have an actual expert that validates that response before sending it back to the student. But like that relieves the work of the expert or the mentor, because they don't have to come up with the whole thing. They just have to validate what the AI came up with. Actually, that's one of the prompts that I gave ChatGPT. I was like, give me a list of startup ideas for an education company. And one of the ideas was an AI assisted mentorship thing. Let's see if we can get to it. Yeah, they're still down, but I could see that be like that's a full product idea right there, right? Like you still employ a team of experts that can validate the output of the AI, but now an expert can basically mentor like 10 times the number of students, because they don't have to focus on each individual student. And like those are the kind of things that I'm excited about, right? Because as someone who's worked in education and like worked in a classroom, like it's really hard to give individualized instruction to 30 different students, right? It has to be typically more general, because we only have so much time in the day and I'm only one person. But if an AI could come up with their learning plan and like what do they need to do next, and then I just need to quickly skim over it and validate it, like that frees me up to mentor and help even more students, you know? So, yeah. You never like school. Me too. A lot of people don't like school. Well, it's tricky though, because like for me, when I was in school, like, and I mean, typically how I learn is if I watch the instructor do it, I can do it. Like I've watched them, I've seen them do it, and now I've internalized that. So I didn't typically need as much repetition and practice for homework. Now, not all subjects were that way, but that's just how I was. And so for me, so much of school just felt like a waste of time. I don't know. I remember when Wolfram came out and everyone thought I was going to do coursework too. I mean, it did my calculus homework, but you know, yeah. Yeah, neural networks are millions of little black boxes. Yeah, and this is the point I was making too. I think I commented on it earlier. Like, it's not going to replace us until we really understand it. So it's like, I guess my summary of the whole topic is it's really freaking cool, and like it's kind of amazing that we're alive at a time when something like this is happening. But as someone who is more technical, right, and is an expert in various coding and technical things, like I know there are things that ChatGPT can't do on its own, but it definitely could augment my work or augment other people's work, and I think that's a good thing as well. Are we not already in a simulation? We could be. So, what's up, Frodlinski? I studied Vue, but starting work for a big company and they use Angular, but I don't find that many content about it. Is it still worth learning? I mean, if you're working for a company and they're using it, absolutely learn it. Angular is, and I mean, honestly, like this is relevant because we're about to do the state of JS. Angular is, at this point, is like an enterprise platform. Like large companies use Angular for large projects that have big teams and lots of people working on them, because when you're working on an app in that way, there are certain things that you need that require a lot more work to set up if you're just using React. And honestly, even if you're like just using Vue, I think you get closer if you're just using Vue, but Angular from the get-go has a lot of opinions about where stuff goes, has in terms of like folders and files and stuff like that. It has a lot of opinions about how to do things, and what that means is that you can have more consistency across like a large team. Whereas in React, there's a million and one ways to do things and so many opinions out there. So I think like from an enterprise perspective, Angular definitely makes a lot of sense. If you're working for a company that uses it, like just go all in. Like it's your day job, become an expert in it. Like I was an expert, I say was, an expert in Angular JS. Which was the predecessor to the modern Angular. But the thing is, in being an expert with Angular JS, like I knew how to write really good apps that worked and weren't slow, because I knew how the whole thing worked. I knew how the digest loop worked. I knew how to write things so that they wouldn't have too many watchers and have too many things happening in the background. So I learned the internals, and then I could write really good applications. So like, I was able to use it to build cool things when other people were complaining, like, "Oh, Angular is slow." It's slow because you're using it wrong. So my point is to like, yeah, be an expert, and no matter what you use, Vue or Angular or React, like you can. Once you know enough about them, like you can make them work for you. And typically, like with Vue and Angular, I mean, this is a big generalization, but you typically have to do less optimization than you might do in like a React app. Like it's really easy to get up and going in React, but over the long term, I think it's harder to optimize it and stuff like that. Yeah. I believe that human consciousness is AI that the body invented to ensure it hunts, feeds, and reproduces. We're all just programs. Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's weird though, right? Because like most people think that we have free will. Like we think that we're in control of what we do in our environment and everything. But there are like parts of the brain that are like we call like the lizard brain and stuff like that. The part that is pure instinct. And I mean, if you understand and ascribe to evolution as a way of describing how we got to where we are today, then you know that like the way we describe like the evolution of the brain is like it used to be all instinct, and then these systems got added onto it. Like you have the frontal lobe and stuff like that that can now basically override the instinct. So it can have more forward-thinking thought that can then say, oh, well, actually, you don't have to pay attention to that instinct that is telling me to store all of this food for later, because in actuality, we have abundance and we're not hunter-gatherers anymore. So like the brain is like a constant back and forth between the frontal lobe and the lizard brain. I guess that what is that is that the medulla oblongata? I don't know. I started reading a book called the Downward Spiral, which is about depression in the brain, but it goes into the Upward Spiral. Because it talks about how to overcome the downward spiral. It's this book here, but it had a lot of stuff about neuroscience, so like that's why it's fresh on my mind, because I was learning a lot about brain stuff. And the Sheeposs, thank you for the 5 gifted. You're too kind. Thank you. I'll be honest, I only read half of this book, but the first half was really good. It was all like, and I learned a lot about neuroscience and what we know about the brain. But the whole point of the author talking about that was to understand like how depression can affect the brain and how it manifests itself in the brain. But yeah. We can manipulate our brain. Does AI really need to think like us to become real if it's already learned how to manipulate? Yeah, I don't think so. And I guess going down that line of thinking that like in order for AI to take over everything, like it has to be exactly like us, I guess that is a wrong line of thinking. Like we don't necessarily have to understand it. It can just be a black box, and eventually it could just like overtake the things that we need to do. But yeah, I'm about to declare chat bankruptcy. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like just say no on this. Just say no, because I'm going to be honest, and I watched Trash Dev complete part of the survey, so I know there are already things that I have not used or heard of on State of JavaScript. Thank you, mods, for putting this up though. That's fun. Yeah. Cool. If AI helps with migrating databases, they'll make you migrate 2 databases instead. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like this just goes like this is like a parallel to one of the first things I did in the first internship I ever had. I was an intern. I was a system administrator intern, and my job was to help upgrade websites. And part of the upgrade process was converting from MySQL to Postgres. And they literally had a script that said, when you're doing the conversion, well, not a script that you would run from the command line, a script as in things you need to do step by step to migrate this database. And I saw that and I was like, that should just be code. So I literally converted that into a script that you could run that would automatically migrate the database instead of having to run all these manual commands. That was like one level of automation. The next level of automation is like, I don't even have to write that script. I can just tell the computer to do it. But you still need me to tell the computer to do that. I don't know. I have no idea, Killer. Do they generate lorem ipsum or something like that? Or do they give you random images? I think Flickr is not necessarily all safe for work. So if it's random, it's possible that it doesn't have it does have not safe for work stuff. Yeah. And that's what I'm thinking happened, Robert Table. So in that example of that video we were watching, like, it looked like it followed a tutorial, but the cool thing about it is, like, it took a written form tutorial and turned it into, like, an interactive dialogue between the article, the lesson, and the person learning. And I think that actually would be a really effective way for people to learn things. So, yeah. Yeah, so this is just a custom overlay that I made. Are you beefy? I'll beefy? You beefy. How you do that? Yeah, there we go. I can't believe I remembered that command. But if you click that link, it has the link to all the repos and all the videos where I worked on this thing. It's not exactly usable by other people, though. There is this stream chat. This app. Honestly, I think this app got archived, but it's very similar to my overlay, but it is written in a way that other people could use it for their streams. Okay, we're behind on chat. Let's just scroll a little bit and then take the survey. Oh, you're creating projects? Cool. Let's check it out. What is HackMD? Is this a link I can click? One of the mods, can you click on this for me? This is like a markdown aggregating website. Safe. All right, here we go. Awesome chat GPT. And Magic King, thank you for the link. That's you. That's you right there. Cool. Yeah, I'll have to take a look at that later. Like, I don't know. Is there anything on here you want me to highlight? Like something that would be really cool to show? If you're still here. I know that was 13 minutes ago when you said that. Oh, I copied the link from this person's message earlier. Yeah, okay. Let's say we can say you don't need junior devs now, just teach AI. Yeah, I think flip the problem though. I think now it's going to be easier to train more junior devs, right? I think that's kind of the point I was getting at earlier. Like now one senior or one mentor with the help of AI can help and train more people than they could before. So I think it's a way to get people to learn faster, right? The thing that just came to mind is in the modern Star Trek movie, where they're showing what race is Spock? What's his race? I should know this, but Vulcan. He is Vulcan. Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, the 2009 movie starring Chris Pine. This Star Trek. There's a scene where they go to Vulcan, and it's like all the Vulcan kids are like in this little. They're like in the ground in like this circular thing, but they're learning, and it's like projected screens all around them, like feeding them information and stuff like that. Like I see that as a possible future. Like that is a possible way for us to now teach kids, right? Like obviously it sounds very disconnected because they're not in a classroom in seats anymore, but it's a potentially a much more effective way to transfer information to a human brain if you have an AI assisted way of doing that. True, yeah, he's half human, half Vulcan. But anybody know what scene I'm talking about? Like they cut to his planet, and like it's all these kids, and they're like, it kind of is an AI that's like feeding. It seems like it would be is feeding them that information for them to learn everything. Yeah, exactly. So like they're learning like calculus and quantum physics and all that stuff. But all of that to say is that like I think if you can have the right mechanisms for teaching that kind of thing, and also like an AI could potentially try to find the best way to get that information across to a human, then yeah, I think younger kids can learn more complex topics earlier. Is this the scene? Yeah, this is it. We'll watch it without sound so we don't get DMCA. But yeah, they're like in this little dome thingy. I mean, if you think about it, like the motion graphics that they did a lot of times in movies, it's purely for show, right? Because it's like, how effective would that really be of like data floating around you? But I imagine it as more of like a 3 or 4 screen monitor, right? And then you have like lots of information at your that you can access very quickly. I don't know. This is what ChatGPT is going to let us do. That's all I'm saying. And thank you, Statny, for the gifted sub. I appreciate that. All right, I am going to declare chat bankruptcy. 16 minutes of chat that I missed. I apologize, but now we're going to take a survey. If my instructor started teaching their content by stealing from ChatGPT, I would have a much easier time in class. Probably, yeah. CJ gets more points on survey than mod average. Oh, okay. The mod average is 86%. Ah, okay. This is a good one. This is a good one. Okay. Let's get into it and let's take the survey. And thank you everybody for your input. This is cool. I'm gonna have to check this out later of like different projects people use to do for ChatGPT and stuff like that. If I get exactly 86.5, it's a wash. All right, is everyone ready? Type 2 in chat if you're ready. And thank you, the Tim A and Aston Spark. Thank you for those resubs. Appreciate you. Okay. I guess let's try to do a YouTube intro. I don't know if I'll turn this into a YouTube video. I mean, people can just go watch the stream. But here we go. Hello, friends. Welcome to Coding Garden. In this video, I am going to be completing the State of JS 2022 survey. Now, I don't know how much longer it's going to be active. So if you want to take it, link is in the description. Take it right now because it actually might not be that active that much longer. And every year they release this survey. It essentially gets a survey of what do people use, how often do they use it, do they like it, do they not like it, that kind of thing. So we're going to take the survey. I'm going to be completely honest about things I know and that I don't know. And we'll get right into it. So let me log in real quick. Here we go. For the first time in a while, it feels like the status quo of the JavaScript ecosystem is being questioned. Faster bundling with Vite, island architecture with Astro, resumability with Quick, new entrants are challenging the old guard, and the result is a lot more excitement, but also a lot more uncertainty. It's always been this way. Like every year there's something new. Like I guess last year or the year before, wasn't it Parcel instead of Vite? And then like Webpack 0 config. It's always this way. Don't make this sound like it's anywhere, like it's more now than it ever was. It's always been this way. So once more, let's try and figure out together where JavaScript is going in 2022 and beyond. Here we go. All right, yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, so if I zoom out, you'll see there's a lot of sections. Like this is probably going to take me at least an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours to complete. But I'm going to do my best. We're just going to go one at a time, one question at a time, and here we go. Language, the vocabulary of JavaScript. Welcome to the survey. The first part is all about figuring out what features of the JavaScript language you know about. And if you know about something but haven't used it, that's fine too. Proxies. I know what it is, and I've used it. Shout out to old CJ that did a talk on building an MVC app from scratch. And I used proxies so that way we could have real-time updating data without having to do anything like set state or anything like that. We could literally set a property on the object, and then the Vue would instantly know that and could automatically update. So that's what proxies are, and the latest version of Vue uses proxies now. They used to use object.define property, but now they use proxies, which is why Vue 3 doesn't support older browsers that don't have proxy support. So those are cool. Promise.all settled. I've used it, so this is similar to promise.all, but promise.all will throw an exception and break out if one of your promises throws an exception or would potentially go to the catch, whereas all settled waits for all of them to complete regardless of if they are complete or not. And Connery, thank you for that Prime. Brand new. Welcome in. Welcome to the Coding Garden. Appreciate you. Yeah, and proxies are great. Like, yeah, I mean, we can just look it up on MDN real quick. And now, proxies is a general computer science term, but specifically in the JavaScript language, there is a capital P proxy object that gives you this feature. So you can define an object, pass it into a proxy, and then now the thing you get back can be alerted when things happen to it. Like if a property changes or if a property is accessed, you can get access to those things. So if they have the methods that we can... Yeah, so they have different traps that you can tap into. So you have a set trap. So this is the one that we would use if we want to detect if something has changed. We can pass a function to the set trap, and anytime someone tries to change a property on that object, this function is going to run. So it's like an interceptor. That's another term for proxy. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. All right, dynamic import. Yeah, I've used it in when you generate a Vue app. It has an example of this where basically instead of importing everything at the top of your file, you can import at a later time, and so this will let you do that. Nullish coalescing. I've used it because people told me to use it on stream. Typically, I use like the OR operator, but this I think specifically has to do with them. I can't even explain. I've used it before, but honestly, for me, it's just a replacement for the OR operator. Okay. So it's the OR operator thingy, but only for null. So if the thing on the left-hand side has an actual value, then you're gonna get that. Let's actually test this out, because I'm curious what it would do with undefined. So, and then if we look at foo, it is default string. Yeah, so it seems like it's potentially more predictable. I'm going to do this so that I can overwrite the variables. And then thing is 0. But what about undefined? Thing is default string. Okay, so the nullish coalesce works for null and undefined, but not for falsy values. I think that's the main difference. That is the main difference between nullish coalescing and the OR operator. It's in the name, nullish coalescing. So basically, if I use the OR operator, then things that are falsy, it doesn't catch. So in this case, thing actually would be default string instead of false. So that's cool. That's cool. But honestly, a lot of times I'll just use OR because I actually most of the time I want it to include falsy values, but yeah, okay. Private fields, we've used it and we've talked about how we don't really like the syntax, but yeah, you can do private fields in JavaScript now. Numeric separators, yep, it's the underscore. So when you have a big long number in your code, like 9 million, you can actually write it like this, and then JavaScript will just strip those away, but you can make your code potentially more readable. So that's the thing. String.prototype.replace all. Yeah, this is a cool addition because string.replace. So if I say replace L's with banana, you see that replace only replaces the first occurrence. And if we wanted replace to replace all occurrences, then we'd have to add a regular expression with the global matcher to replace both L's. But now that we have replace all, we don't have to use regular expressions anymore. We can just say that, and then it'll replace all occurrences with the thing instead of just the first occurrence. So that's pretty cool. Match all, similar idea. It's like a global matcher. Logical assignment. Yeah, I never use it. I don't like how this looks, but it really is. It's kind of just the same thing as value equals thing or other thing. Right, because it already had the value 50. Balalas. Bananas. So like, it's yeah. So I've used it. I don't like it, but I've used it. Promise.any. So yeah, that'll resolve after you can pass an array just like promise.all, but it will resolve if any of them resolve. And then it will move on after any of them have resolved. So you could have like, it's almost like a race condition. You fire off 3 promises. The first one that resolves, you get that value. I'm beginning to like .at more and more on arrays. So this was added to arrays. So if I have an array that's like A, B, and C, .at, initially, it works very similar to like bracket notation, right? Great. Where it's really useful is if you want to get the last value in an array. Code golfers everywhere are rejoicing because I can do this and get the last value in the array. Whereas before, you typically would have to do like length -1 and not at, you'd use bracket notation. And of course, you'd have to get the length. This is an inline example, but this is where this is more and more useful. Is if you're trying to get the last thing in an array, the .at is really useful. Top level await, yeah, we use this a lot in Dino. So we can basically you can have async functions that async modules basically that don't have to have your async code inside of a function. Yeah, the temporal API, yeah, we used it the other day to format. No, I guess we formatted currency the other day. Actually, that reminds me, we should go to the advent of birds and collect our birds for the past few days. So this is a thing we built on Coding Improv last week, and it gives you an advent calendar. And what I was thinking of is this. So this is the international formatting API, but it let us do currency, so we use that. Temporal, I do believe, is the one that lets you format dates, and you can also do like relative time, so like time since, that kind of thing. Yes, let's find it here. I can show some examples. Temporal? Time? I don't know what it's called. Yeah, no, I know it's not this. This is what I was thinking of, though. That's what I was thinking of. Why is it not on MDN? I spelled it wrong. They just don't have it. But it can give you like relative times and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. All right, let's fill out the rest, or get the rest of our days for this advent calendar. Oh, it's still like stage 0. Okay. This bird checks his watch, types on his phone. What is the point in getting up early if the worms are not on time? That's funny. That's definitely a bird. Well, that's a bird with feet, not necessarily a bird with arms. That is very much a bird with arms. And then here's today's bird with arms. It's a bird that's taking a picture with its iPhone. Very cool. Okay. Array.find last. I haven't used it. It's basically a find that goes in reverse. So that's cool. But I have not used that. So there we go. I don't have 100% on this. It says this was released in 2022. I feel like I went over ECMAScript 2022. I didn't see this on the feature list. Finished proposals. We can look at things that made it into... Oh, we looked at 2021, not 2022. Yeah, so there are only 2 features made it into ES 2022. Is that what we're seeing here? Oh no, they're going to make it into 2023. This is wrong. This is wrong, man. Yeah. Tell the creators of this survey this tag is wrong. This is actually 2023, not 2022. Error.prototype.cause. Yeah, we used it. Basically, it's almost like the inner exception in like Java and C Sharp, but now you can pass it in as the cause of an error. We've used this and we've talked about why it's better than other things. I guess I have to stop showing examples of everything, or we'll be here forever. So, regex match indices. Oh yeah, we did use it, and then I couldn't figure out the API. Anybody? So I say we because we've used these things specifically on stream. A lot of times people will tell me about them. I'm like, oh yeah, let's try it out. I remember we were trying to do this, and I was like, I didn't understand the API. Eventually, we got it, but yeah, we have used it. All right, let's keep going. Browser APIs. Service workers. I've used it indirectly, right? So if you generate like a Vue app and you choose progressive web app, it's going to generate a service worker in the back for you that like caches resources. Also, Create React app does that as well. I guess we can be a little hand wavy about like, have I really used it? I mean, I've deleted the file that created a service worker, so sure. We've used the Intel API. This is what I was talking about earlier for currency formatting. I mean, I haven't written WebGL code directly, but I've used 3JS, which uses WebGL under the hood. You can use some really cool stuff with 3JS. Is the Rubik's Cube example on here? Like this. Well, never mind. But we did some 3JS stuff on stream one time. Web animations. What do they mean by this? I don't even know what they mean by web animations. Is this a specific API? The Web Animations API. Synchronizing and timing changes to the presentation of a web page. Yeah, I've never used it. I guess you can tap into when animations are happening with CSS and stuff like that. Element.animate. Cool. I've never done this with JavaScript because I've only done it with CSS, so that's pretty cool. I didn't know it existed. WebRTC, I've used it, built an app with it. Yep. Web Speech API, we've used this on stream before. You can do like text-to-speech and stuff like that. We've used WebSockets. We've done custom elements, which are web components. Shadow DOM has a lot to do with custom elements in web components. The page visibility API lets you know when someone like tabs away from your app, which is pretty sweet. Broadcast channel, I know what it is. I've never used it. I think this is like a way of doing real time, but I've almost always just used WebSockets. And ending with Ollie. Thank you for the raid. Welcome in, Raiders. JavaScript. Yeah, we're doing the State of JS survey. If you want to take the survey too, you can click that link and take the survey. But thank you for that raid. What were you working on? Can we hack the Instagram algorithm? Did you hack it? What was the result? But thank you very much for that raid. Everyone should definitely. Wait, did that even work? Does anyone see the follow overlay? Because the shout out thing isn't showing up on my side. We found out it's hard to hack. Yeah, the Instagram API has done a lot to prevent people from messing with their data. That's weird. Let me just refresh the page because we gotta get you a shout out. Shout out. There we go. How am I not following? Thank you for the raid. Thank you. And welcome in, Raiders. So if you're not familiar, the State of JS survey is a survey that comes out every year. And I am taking the survey now. The results will be... you're very welcome in, the results will be presented in probably a month or so. But basically, it asks you about what do you know about, what do you use on a daily basis, what are you satisfied with, and then they compile all of those results together. So right now, we just got started with the survey. We're on the second page saying what we know about web browser APIs. And we just came up to broadcast channel API. I've heard of it before. Never used it. I do believe so. Basic communication between browsing contexts. So yeah, so I've used window.postMessage, but I've never used broadcast channel.postMessage. So that's cool. It seems like they would need to be from like the same domain, right? It has to be on the same browsing context. What do you mean? Is this an old recording, David? This is live. Oh, I cut my hair. Is that what you mean? Yeah. So yeah, heard of it, never used it. Geolocation, we've used it. File system access API, we've used it. The web share API, we've used it. I've also used it like at my job before this. But basically, like if you're doing this in a website that's running on a mobile web browser, the share API will actually launch the native share API that will let you like share with apps or like copy to clipboard. I've never used WebXR. Does this have anything to do with like augmented reality? Let's see. WebXR is a group of standards which stand together to support rendering 3D scenes to hardware designed for presenting virtual worlds, VR, or for adding graphical imagery to the real world with augmented reality. Cool. I mean, honestly, like I did a demo. That was like, I don't know if it was WebXR. It was the one, because I think Firefox was one of the first browsers to support this. This is probably the API that I use, the WebVR API. Because basically within a web page, you could get data that you could typically only get inside of like a native application. So you could get a position and like gyroscope information about the head-mounted display that a user was wearing. But if anyone remembers Google Cardboard, they had an experiment that used WebVR, I believe. This was a while back, but this was they gave out these cardboard boxes, I believe, at the Google Dev conference, but you could also order them. And basically, it was like a little fold device, and you could put your phone into it, and it basically splits the screen down the middle and turns it into like a VR device. But I do believe it used to use WebVR. Now it probably is using WebXR. So I've never used that because I use the older one. Let's keep going. All right. Progressive web apps. I've used it. WebAssembly. Honestly, I haven't ever directly used it. I know what it is. I know some of the things I do will generate WebAssembly, but I've never written WebAssembly myself directly. Stereoscopic or stereoscope? What do you mean? What do you mean? uBlock Origin uses WebAssembly. That's cool. And what's up, Vive? I missed that message. Yeah, I got a haircut. And thank you, Cplay. I cut it myself. I mean, you could probably tell there's no fade. I literally did a straight line and then just like buzzed it. But I think it looks all right. Google Cardboard is stereoscope. I see. Okay, the next couple of questions focus on libraries and frameworks that make up the JavaScript ecosystem. I'll let you know what you're excited about. Do you actually write WebAssembly, or would you use tools that convert the code into WebAssembly? I think that's typically what people would do, right? I don't think I've really even ever done that either. But like, there's like a Emscripten, I think is what it's called, can let you turn C or C++ code into WebAssembly that can run in a web browser. And there are similar things that will convert C# or convert Rust to stuff that runs directly in the web browser. Yeah, people typically aren't writing WebAssembly directly, but even that, I haven't really used those. So, yeah. Super curious to know which uses more energy to perform a search for information, ChatGPT or Google Search plus new tabbing the first few results. Oh, interesting. So that's the other, I mean, that's the thing that I didn't even think about is like instant answers, right? ChatGPT is the new Google search engine, right? Like, I mean, like the tricky part about it is like ChatGPT doesn't tell you where it got this information from. It just presents the information to you almost as if it's like already, if it's a fact. I think in order for it to be like an augmented search engine, it has to tell you what the source is, right? Like where did it get that answer from? But that's probably the future of search engines is ChatGPT. You just talk to it. Like people already try to talk to Google. but has actually made Google worse. At least in my experience of what I've been noticing is like Google wants you to type a question in. Google doesn't it doesn't perform as well as it used to when you have like these carefully crafted searches that only have the terms that you want. These days, Google wants you to search like everyone else in the world searches, where they literally ask it a question. But yeah, okay. React. I've used it, and I would use it again only because it's really popular. So, well, I guess we'll get into the section. Well, maybe this is where if I say used it, would not use again, maybe that's better for the metrics because like I don't like React. I use it because I have to. I use it because the job I worked at used it. And then now I use it because I'm a tech educator and people want to learn React. So that's why I keep using it. But do I like it? No. Like, yeah. So I'll say used it, would use it again. But yeah. Ryan says exactly. I honestly thought that IBM Watson was going. Yeah, me too. I remember IBM Watson. Yeah, I mean, honestly, put Chat GPT. Whoa, has anybody done that? Has anybody typed in Jeopardy questions into Chat GPT to see if it can, how quickly it can answer it? That's it. Okay, that would be a cool experiment. Okay, let's keep moving. Vue. Used it, would use it again every day of my life. Vue is awesome. Angular, I've used it. I'd use it again if I needed to. Honestly, my answer for all of these is yeah, I would use it again if the situation arises. As a software engineer that's been doing this for close to 15 years, I know that all of these different things have their uses, and it's not like I'm never going to use them again because I didn't like. I mean, I did kind of say that about React, but it's like React isn't going away. We're going to have to keep using it. So I've used Angular. I would use it again. I've used Preact. I would use it again. I would use Preact over React, especially because they've introduced signals and they're doing like lots of really cool stuff. Like it used to be that Preact was kind of just like the exact same thing as React, but now they're introducing things that are like separating it from React. So if you go in their guide and you look at signals, signals are really cool. I mean, I'm literally telling you that I hate React. Svelte is awesome too. So I've actually used Ember. I probably wouldn't use it again. So like Ember was honestly, I think Ember was like really big inspiration for how Angular works these days. And actually the original Angular CLI was just a fork of the Ember CLI. But Ember is from the same folks that brought you Ruby on Rails. Some of the same folks. Hey, what's up, Ryan? Signals are cool. I agree. And signals are in SolidJS as well. Actually, so I think we're at the point of the survey where it's going to ask us about Solid, and I've never used it before. I've watched videos on YouTube. I've looked through the tutorial, but I've never actually built anything with it. So I think we're going to pause the survey and build something with Solid really quick. But Ryan made Solid. That's why he's in the chat. Thanks for being here. There you go. Okay. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so the Angular CLI was actually a fork of the Ember CLI, and Ember comes from the Ruby on Rails folks. And if you know Ruby on Rails, you know that it's extremely opinionated as a backend framework. Ember is a very similar thing, like tons of opinions. But what that means is like every Ember app you get dropped into behaves the way that you would expect because everything is where it is. I believe LinkedIn was written in Ember. I don't know if that's changed or they've rewritten since then. If you look in like built with Ember. Who is using Ember.js? A lot of companies. Their tagline was, wasn't it like ambitious web apps or something like that? But honestly, from what I'm seeing, it seems like Angular and like the new Angular is kind of like taking over that for like ambitious web apps or like large enterprise apps. I don't know. Svelte, used it, would use it again. Svelte is awesome. Alpine, I've heard of it. Let's look at it really quick to see if I am interested in it. I always forget which one this is because there's one. Yeah, it's this one. So it's like very HTML focused, where like everything is done with like data attributes. You have like way less JavaScript. I mean, technically you're going to have a little bit of JavaScript in your props here, but everything is like based on props. I'd like to learn it. Like, honestly, I'd like to at least build one app with it to see how I feel with it, because one of the cool things is you just drop the script tag in, right? And then you just start coding. And like, that's a very similar feel that I got with Vue.js that I liked early on with Vue. Now, if you're building a full-on Vue app, typically you're going to generate it with the CLI, but it is nice if you have just like a one-off page to drop the Vue CD in and just start coding. This feels like you'd have a similar experience, so it seems like it might be fun for like rapid prototyping. I don't think I'd build like a giant app with this. Yeah, it's kind of like Tailwind for JS. You have all of your JavaScript in the attributes. So I would like to learn it or use it, but I haven't. Yeah, so I've used Lit. I would use it again. So this framework is for building web components. Building web components without this is like really cumbersome, but they give you nice little utilities like this HTML template function where you pass in a template string, but it actually compiles this into like a render function. It has a lot of other utilities for building web components. Timon says Lit is awful in my opinion. It's the only thing I've used that makes, well, I guess, yeah, only thing I've used that makes making web components easier. There is Stencil, but Stencil is more like React-ish. That's probably what they're going to ask us about next. But Stencil is a similar idea. It lets you build web components, but they have JSX. Like you use JSX, so it looks like closer to React. I don't know. So yeah, Solid. Honestly, let's go build a Solid app so that I can put used it and won't use it again. So let me tell you about my how I first heard about Solid, and I was like immediately sold on it, but I haven't built anything with it yet because I've just been doing other things. But I think I literally just watched the, wait, is this the Fireship one? Yeah, that's Fireship. I watched the 10-minute one, this advanced intro, and it told me everything I needed to know about. So like I haven't even used Solid, and I already know that I will like it based on this one video. And I mentioned this in the past, but it's actually really cool that the tutorial for a framework comes from the framework itself. So this is from the core team member, Dan. It's one of the first front-end frameworks I've seen that has this aspect to it, right? Because like a lot of other things, like you search YouTube and you find other people that have used it, whereas this is directly from SolidJS themselves, and it's a really good tutorial. Let's watch it. Let's watch at least the first bit of it, and then let's generate a Solid app. Yeah, first-party tutorials, exactly.
Solid is a reactive JavaScript framework. If you're interested in what reactivity is and how it works in Solid, this video is for you. Let's say we have a...
We're going to watch it on 1.5 speed, if that's okay. Oh, no, you didn't, Ryan. I literally, this was my plan because I was thinking about this earlier. I was like, I've talked about Solid. I haven't used it. We're gonna learn it in like under 20 minutes. But we're gonna watch this video at 1.5 speed, and potentially stop watching the video and just go build a thing. Honestly, okay. Let me know in chat. We'll just do like a quick poll. Should we watch the video, or should we just go right to the docs? Vote now. Yes. I mean, honestly, the reason I'll just keep playing this, but the reason I wanted to show it was because, yeah, it's a first-party tutorial. It's a tutorial from the people themselves, and if you already know React, if you've used Vue before, you're going to understand what this thing does.
Relationship. Double count is set to count times 2, and we can go ahead and print that out. But if we change count and print again, the value of double count is still the same. In order for the relationship to hold, we have to restate that relationship. What Solid's reactivity can do for us is maintain that relationship over time, make it into a rule that's always true. Instead of using let, we'll use createSignal, imported from Solid, to create a reactive variable. This gives us two functions, a getter and a setter. We'll call the getter whenever we want to access the value of the variable. This gives us the same result, but signals allow us to tap into Solid's reactivity. Rather than double count being an assignment at a specific point in time, we can write it as a function of our count signal. To show how Solid can maintain this relationship over time, let's update our count signal every second using setInterval, which is built into JavaScript. Here we'll make use of that second function we got from createSignal, the setter function that sets the reactive variable to what we pass. In this case, we set the count to the value of the count plus 1. Instead of just logging double count once, we'll wrap our output using createEffect. An effect is some function that depends on signals. With createEffect, we pass a function, and Solid will keep track of any signals that are used inside the
So we're 2 minutes into the video, and I was like, this is everything I need to know. First of all, like if you've already used React, if you've already used, is it 50-50? All right, we'll watch just like a couple more minutes of it, because I mean, you all can give me your first impressions of this. Like if you use hooks in React, or if you've ever used like even like I guess the composition API in Vue, you look at this code, it makes sense. But the cool thing is we're not inside of a component, right? This is the thing that I think is missing from React is the fact that hooks and effects and like use state, there's so many rules around where you have to use it. Like it can't be in a conditional, it has to be at the top. You have to declare your dependencies. This gets rid of all that stuff, and like you can just use them anywhere. You'll notice in the effect we didn't have to add our array of dependencies. It's automatically tracking it. What else? Yeah, I guess technically, like we do have like this setter function, so it's not like complete. It doesn't have like the mutable API like you would in Vue.js, but we're already used to this if we're using React. I don't know. This just looks really cool to me. Let's watch like another minute, and then we'll build a thing.
function scope. When any of those change, the effect will rerun. In this case, the count signal is used by double count, which is inside the effect. So whenever count changes, we get another output to the console. This makes reasoning about your code way easier, especially as complexity grows. Let's say we had another signal for a multiplier. Let's change that over time too. We will increment it as well at a different interval. And let's use both of our signals inside the effect to tell the user a mathematical statement. As you can see, whenever either signal changes, the effect reruns. And this system is composable. We can pull relationships out into their own functions. So we can make our code a little bit neater by pulling out the product calculation. We can pass this around and call it within effects, and Solid will always know to look as deep as it needs to find any signals and rerun the effect when those change. To sum up, createSignal sets up a value that can be tracked by Solid, and createEffect makes sure a function is always up to date when a signal that it depends on is updated. Also, you can use functions to represent relationships between your signals, giving you a powerful way to model your system. Let's take a look at how this works with some pseudocode. At the most basic level, createSignal lets us read. Let's create a DOM node using vanilla JavaScript here. We'll create an H1, and we'll give it some placeholder content.
I realized I was muted. I said, let's get into the idea of components, and then we'll jump into the docs. Because this was like state outside of components. This generates code. I mean, I don't know the implementation details of it, but I imagine it's very similar to like React because it also uses JSX. So there is going to be a build step. But I think the thing that's different is there is no virtual DOM, right? Something I don't think. Yeah, there's no virtual DOM, and it's similar to Svelte in that there's no virtual DOM and it only ships the code that it needs. I don't know if Ryan is still here; he can clarify that, but that's my understanding of it.
Then we will add it to the screen by appending it to the existing appdiv. Sure enough, it shows up. Let's modify our effect so that instead of printing to the console, we update this header. Let's get rid of these set intervals too and add buttons instead. We could write them out using DOM functions, but Solid allows you to write HTML elements directly into your code thanks to JSX. Let's add these to the screen too, using that append call to the appdiv. Now let's make these buttons actually work. We can use the curly brace.
Yeah, and so like it's going to generate the code based on what you wrote, but I do believe no virtual DOM, which is cool.
Syntax to set the click event of each button to a function that increments the appropriate signal. In general, curly braces in JSX allow us to insert a dynamic value. And now we've got a UI working using Solid's reactive system to stay in sync with the data. But there's certainly still room for improvement. Firstly, this isn't totally optimal. Our effect will replace the entire text content of the header, even if only a small amount of that needed to change, which is costly from a performance perspective. Secondly, even though Solid cut down on how much code we need to maintain our state, we're still writing imperative code here, directly manipulating the DOM. And Solid can make writing UI code much easier using components. In Solid, components are just functions that help us group our UI code and reuse it. Let's start with an app function that will serve as the entry point for our app. We can move our signals inside of it, although we don't necessarily need to. Components in Solid return a DOM node to be rendered, so let's make sure to do that. We can go ahead and move our buttons into this div. I'll go ahead and copy and paste it. And we can remove our old header and create one using JSX. We'll just have some placeholder content for now. To tell Solid that this component is our entry point, we will use this render function that we'll have to import from Solid. It takes a component and a DOM element to mount to. This is the typical setup for Solid. A nice thing about JSX in Solid, whether you do it inside a component or not, is that it lets you use reactive values directly inside of this template. So instead of creating an effect that imperatively modifies the header, we can just interpolate values directly into the header. Behind the scenes, Solid actually...
This is the amazing piece, right? So like if you had this same code in React, each of these functions would potentially need to rerun on every render. Like everything in the render function reruns or gets recreated on a new render. What this is going to show is that each of these is actually like a text node, and it's the only thing that changes when that value changes instead of the whole thing re-rendering, which is another amazing thing about Solid.
Compiles this into effects, but we don't have to worry about this. In fact, Solid optimizes our declarative code. Now, only the text nodes that actually need to be updated will be updated. We call this granular update.
Like it's, to me, it's baffling that React never worked this way, but it's like this is the React that people want. This is why I think Solid is like the next big thing, because all the people that are already writing React can just jump over to Solid, and then your apps will instantly be faster. I mean, there's going to be like a little bit of a migration, but that's how I see it.
And it's enabled by Solid.
All right, let's build an app. Now, in the past, I have done what I called the front end showdown. Where we build the same app multiple different ways. So yeah, we did one in 2018 where I did it in vanilla, React, Angular 6, and Vue, and then we did another one in 2020 where I did it in vanilla, React, Angular, Vue, and Svelte. So I'm gonna rebuild this exact same app now, but just with Solid instead. We can go look at the No, exactly, Killer. Yeah, I think that's actually is a good point to make that I kind of glossed over. Is technically when the VDOM thing happens, it's only going to update that one specific node. But where it's different is that React needs to rerun that entire render function, whereas Solid only reruns the little functions that changed. Cool. Yeah. So we talked. If you want to rewind the stream, we talked about that earlier in stream. But we can see the app that we built with React. I think we put it all into one component. Yeah, basically we're just going to rebuild this with Solid. And do I have these deployed anywhere? Because it's like a super basic image search website. So let's do it. We're in the docs. Let's get started. Do they have they have a dgit? I wonder, does this use Vite, or does Vite have a Solid option? They don't yet. I imagine maybe we'll get there, but here we go. This template JS, and then my app is going to be called image search. Great. We'll go in there. Install dependencies, and then run it. I guess, should we have used TypeScript? I guess not. Let's see what we get. Oh, it is using Vite. That's cool. There we go. We've got ourselves a Solid app. Easy. Now, can we take what I learned in that video and then just do it? No, the survey isn't completed. We're at the point where it asks us if we knew Solid and if we would use it again. And I want to say yes, so we're going to learn it right now. Okay, got our entry point. Honestly, like if you're a React dev, all of this looks super similar. And I guess it used PNPM by default. Oh, maybe it generated that lock automatically. I'm busy lying? Come on. But yeah, like if you've ever done React, this looks, you know exactly what this is doing. And if we look at app.jsx, easy. All right, so I'm gonna use what I know about React and what I just learned about signals to build this thing. I do like that it comes with CSS modules by default. That's pretty awesome. Yeah, that's great. Though, I mean, I am just going to have some global styles. I don't necessarily need CSS modules, but I do like that they demonstrate they generate it with CSS modules to show people that it's possible. All right, we've got the body code, easy. I think I'm just gonna add what's it called? What's that CSS thing? Pico CSS. We've been using this all the time. This is just going to give us some basic styles so we don't have to worry about styles. So I'm going to add this CSS, Pico, to our HTML right here. And then there we go. We have an app that says hello world, and we can rip out all the other styles that we're not using, and also the logo. We're going to get rid of everything we don't need. So get rid of that CSS, the HTML. We don't want to reference that favicon anymore. Done. Okay. Now, first thing, so we're building an image search app, and the first thing that we need is a search box. So I'm going to have a form, and inside that form, I'll have an input and a label. So this will say search. We'll give this label a for property. I hesitated because I like, do I need HTML for? I'm just going to do for. We're going to call this search. And then my input will have an ID of search and a name of search. Let's see what we get. There we go. So we've got a nice little form there. And I think if we give this a class of container. Also, do I need class versus class name? I'm curious. Tutorial? I guess I could have looked in the generated code. Did it use class or class name? Style. Class list? Class. Okay, yeah, we just need class. So I assume because we can use class, we can also just use for instead of HTML4. Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, but it looks like it's fine. Okay, so we've got this search here. I want to type like mountains, and then we're going to hit an API to search for mountains. So for this, we're going to need a signal. Let's see if I can get an auto import. Create signal. Cool. So that imported that there. Starts off as empty. Now, I guess I probably should go through the tutorial to know, like, is it the canonical thing to do it like you would in React, where you bind the value and then you listen for on change? Because this is typically how you would do it in React. But would we actually just use an uncontrolled input in this case? I don't know. I'm going to do it the React way. People can tell me if this is ridiculous to do it this way. So we're now binding the search value to this input, and then when the input value changes, we need to call set search with event.target.value. And if we've done that correctly, now right here we should have the latest value of search. So native code. What did I do wrong here? Oh, is it search dot like this? Search is a function. And so this also needs to be search. I see. Okay. Or not. Does it need to be like dot current target? Jello. Oh, there it is. Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, so it's on blur. So instead of on change, I actually want on input if I want it to be on every single key press. Jello. Okay, we've done it. We're solid developers. But yeah, it's one of the major differences between like this and React. Like this is a getter, so we need a function to get the value instead of just directly referencing the value. I'm okay with that. Like the code looks a little bit busier, but I'm okay with that. Also, I probably would format it this way. Cool. So we're binding the input. Now we can use that value to make an API request. Adding solid. Yeah, actually, this is our to-do list that we want to do. So in the README, actually, let me get the markdown version of this. Okay, so we got this set up. We got user input and DOM event. So just like in React, if you want to tap into a DOM event, you do that. I think the other thing we would want is like a form submitted event. So I could say like on submit, and then pass in a function form submitted, and then we could have a function up here that does the business. Form submitted is a function that will run. It's going to get the event. We can prevent the default action. And in this case, let's just log the value of search like this. So now if I tap enter, the submit function runs, and then we get it logged out. So that's good. Okay, what else do we want to do? Retrieve the search term from the input when the form is submitted. We have done these two things. Conditional rendering, show a loading image when the form is submitted. Okay, so we need some more state. We're going to have another state called loading and set loading. This starts off as false, and then whenever we submit the form, eventually we're going to be making an API request, so I want to set loading to true. We'll do the API request stuff, and then we'll set loading to false. Like that. Great. And then we'll actually use loading in the UI. So conditional rendering, just like React. So if loading is true, show a thing. I guess we can use this operator. So in this case, I want to show like a loading image. Let me grab that from this repo. We have like a loading image we used for everything. This one. So the only difference here between this and React is that we need to call that getter function. And so if loading is true, we'll show it. So if I search for mountains, now it's showing the loading image. For some reason, it didn't load it. Let's make sure this still exists. .403 forbidden. Context and global state. That honestly, like codecs, that's the beautiful thing, right? Check this out. Take these two variables, or sorry, take these two signals, and then just put them in a separate file. Like function my global state, right? I guess technically you could return them here. You could do like this, or I guess honestly, you could even define these in a module and then like export them. So like export search, and then you could import it elsewhere. So like that's the cool thing about signals is like you don't even need something extra to do like global state. Like everything just works. Okay. We might just need to find another loading image. I don't know. I don't know why that loading image isn't working. Copy image link. Like I have the right URL, don't I? You're right. Let's just save this to a local file. That's going to simplify our lives. So I'm like, why won't this thing load? Okay. Cool. So now in this directory, I have this file. I'm just going to rename it to loading.gif. And then I should be able to import it in, import the URL. So import loading image from here. And so this is Vite and ESBuild doing this thing. We want loading.gif like this. And so that should give us an asset URL that we can then pass into the source. Like that. Okay. Mountains. There we go. That's what I want to see. So I hit enter. The UI is loading, and then now we can actually like make the API request. So show a loading image when the form is submitted. Great. If you know React, you know this. The only difference here is that we actually have to call the getter function for that value. Next up, we need to actually make an API request. This is going to be very similar. We have a function that calls the API. So this is a little serverless function I wrote that gets images from Reddit. So if I pass in mountains, this gives me back an array of images from Reddit of mountains. So this is where we want to make the request to. Delicious looking mountain. It's not. There's no mountains yet. Okay. I'm just going to do the API request in line. Like, this could be a separate function. Like, you could have, like, an API handler, but I'm just going to do it right here in the form submitted. So we'll get the response from fetch to that URL, but we just want to pass in the current value of search, like that. And then that's going to give us back an array of images, so we need another signal. Let's call this results. That starts off as just an empty array. And then when we make the API request, we're going to get back some JSON. Put it on state. Great. And then set loading to false. We'll do like a little set timeout, so that way it looks like the thing is actually loading. So take a second before setting loading to false. So we've got the results, and then let's just show them in the UI. So here we'll have a div that's going to have all of our results inside of it. And then we basically just need to repeat over results. So results, we get the current value, and then we map over it to give us each image. And then we just want to return an image element where the source is image.url. Let me just confirm that I have that property right. Image.source. No, image.image. Let's call this result. Result.image is the specific URL of that result. Cool. We'll add a little bit of global CSS. We'll say image has a width of 100%. And then on this div right here, we'll give this a class of results. And then in our CSS, we'll just say results has a column count of 3. Great. Before I show the UI, I'm just gonna finish everything, and then it's all just gonna work. So make the API request with the search term. Great. Render the list of data, same way you would do it in React, except we use the getter. Append the API results to the page. That's kind of what we're doing here. So once we got that API response back, we put it on state, and then we're using it. And then hide the loading image. Good to go. I think the one thing is, if we make another search for a different term, we want to clear out the results. So I'm going to say each time we submit the form, we'll set results back to an empty array. Okay. We should have ourselves a little image search app. Use show in for. Okay, I will. So so this is like, I'm a React developer and I'm just using what I know. I would love some feedback on what's the solid way to do this. Is it broken? It might be broken. Results.map is not a function. Oh, you know what? It's paginated, isn't it? Let's see what we get. Test fail. I just called my API wrong. Result.images is what we want. Yeah, we technically could add pagination, but I'm not going to do that. All right, mountains. Nice. Nice. That's a mountain. That's a mountain. What CSS property am I thinking? Oh, I didn't import this CSS. That's why. I need to import this in my main. Let's import styles.css. Nice. Nice. So there's all our mountains, and then if I search for cacti. Is that how you spell cacti? It's pretty, yeah. Cool. Now I am open to people yelling at me and telling me that I'm not doing this the solid way. So first of all, I didn't know that there was a show and a for in solid. Let me look into that. So what that tells me is instead of having to do this map, there very likely is like a directive similar to Vue that lets us do this. And then similarly, instead of doing like conditional rendering like this, there's something built into solid that makes it easier to do conditional rendering. Let's see. Show. Show when. And then you have a fallback. Oh, that's so cool. Okay. I'm not doing this as solid, but look at this. Okay, so show is built in. Do I have to import it? Yeah, import it from SolidJS. And so show, when loading is true, show this image. And then what if I just leave off fallback? And then also, there's a little bug where like the images start to show up before loading is false. Rivers. Beautiful. Great. Okay, so we're using show. That's awesome. And then for is another one. Ooh, look at that. It's a little, little declarative thing. So we can import for here as well. So the cool thing is, I guess you don't have to use these. I don't know any solid people are here. If you could tell me, like, is there a benefit to using show and for, or ultimately is it just like a map in a conditional render? So I can say each results. This gives me the result and the index. Don't need the index. We just want the result. And then we just want this image. The other cool thing is we don't need keys like we have in React. I would probably write it like this. Instead of the virtual DOM. What else is in nature? Gardens. Yeah. Cool, cool. No need for explicit keys, right? Yeah, so while I have you, Ryan, is there a benefit to using like for and show instead of doing it like the React way with like a map and a conditional render? Oh, it is equivalent. I see. So by using this, it's handling the keys behind the scenes. Is that what you're saying? And then for show, what benefit am I getting there as well? I think like I think this is the one thing that you might like React developers might have an issue adopting. Um, from my experience, React developers really like their maps and they really like their ternaries and like nested conditionals and stuff like that. This actually reminds me of like a little React thing we did one time because we were demonstrating how to build like high order React components. So we built all of these components on stream. So we had like a state component. You could give it some initial state. We had an if component where you could have a condition and a then. And then we also had a for component where you could pass in the array and then the render function. I never used it beyond this, but it was just a fun exercise to build like components that were composing other components. But it is cool that these are built into Solid. Yeah. Show when loading is true. This. Yeah, it's great. This is our app. Look at me. I know Solid. What else could we search for? Deserts. Yeah, what's up, Radeon? We were just building a little image search app here, and the main reason we were doing that is so that we could learn the basics of Solid, so that, in turn, we could say that we've used it and we would use it again. I mean, I had watched a video on it. Oh yeah, time to put it on my resume. I watched a video on Solid, and I've seen some other people talk about it. And me just knowing what I know and like being a React developer, I was like, yeah, all this makes sense. Like I didn't even have to build something with it to know that I would like using it. Yeah, 5 years of Solid experience. It's cool. I like it. But yeah, again, to reiterate how crazy this is, let's do this. I can actually define these signals outside of the function, which also means I could define form submitted outside of the function, and the app should still just work. Let's see what happens. Yeah, the app should still just work. Yes, yes, that's the beauty there. I'd also give this some margin. And now it's global state. Yeah, so what I was mentioning earlier is, okay, so now take this, put it in a separate module, and then import it into the components that you need. So if you have two different components that are dependent on results, now they're all stored in one place. Yeah. I guess we could we use gap? I just put margin there to give some space between the images, but I think gap would need to go here. I don't know if that's compatible. Yeah, it's not compatible. So column count is a weird one. Column count is not actually CSS grid. It's like this old thing, and it flows this way. So it goes down and then back up. Whereas if you did CSS grid, all of your columns would have to be the same height. Would it be global or still encapsulated in the module? I mean, technically these variables are still just in the module, so like it's module state. But I think what we were saying here is like, let's extract it and export it. So now I have a state file. I mean, honestly, we could call this provider, I guess, if you want to use the React terminology. And then we pull all of these things into there, or I don't know, we'll just pull these three. So we'll have these, and then I'm going to export an object. I mean, I guess I could do, can I do named exports like this? Is this I've never done this. This syntax seems like it's going to work. I've never used this syntax to export from a destructured array. Would that work? Let's see if it works. So now over here, I'm going to import all of those things from provider. Yeah, it looks like it has all of it. So set loading, set results, set search. And then we have search, loading, and results. So I've basically just taken those things, defined it in a module, and now I can actually import these in any other component, and they all they now share that state. So it still works. So yeah. Yeah, and so so I have to look more into Solid, but what Ryan is saying is they also have a store, and this is probably a better version of what I just did. So like instead of pulling it all out into a module, you can create a store and then bring that into different components. Nested reactivity. Yeah. Cool. Okay, I'm done with Solid, but it's actually really cool. And thank you for hanging out, Ryan. That was really fun to do. But now I can say yes, I've used it, and I would use it again. Okay, let's keep working on the survey here. And I guess a little bit I'll answer this. Last night I forgot that a new Advent of Code got released. So the Advent of Code gets released at 10 p.m. my time, and usually I have an alarm set, but I didn't remember until like 11:30 my time. I was like, oh, is there even a point in solving it if I'm not going to be in the top? And then I read the problem and I was like, I don't feel like doing this. Like this specific problem is going to involve like a tree and tree traversal. And I didn't feel like coding that. So I've given up on Advent of Code. I've done the first 6 days of Advent of Code, but now I'm like, yeah, I don't think. I mean, I have an idea of how I would solve it, and I started to solve it, but I really wanted to bring in like a tree data structure. I was just trying to solve it with objects. You don't have to use a tree. Yeah, I mean, I was using with objects, and you can have like nested objects, but then I was having an issue getting access to the parent object. I feel like a tree would make it easier, wouldn't it? Because like you have like the root node and then each like sub node or graph. I don't know. Ultimately, up until day 7, every problem I looked at and I was like, I immediately know how I'm going to solve that. Day 7, I was like, I don't feel like doing that. But you know, okay. Quick. I've heard of it and I'd like to learn it. So Quick is from Michiko Hevry, one of the original creators of Angular. But he started working on Quick. And what's cool about Quick is it basically loads tiny little pieces of JavaScript as they are needed. So like the initial page render doesn't have any JavaScript that it doesn't need yet. And then if you have like a click handler on a button, the moment someone mouses over that button, it instantly downloads the JavaScript that it needs. Is it Quick or Q-Wick? Quick. I guess that's true, right? Cybergenic is like if I just have an array of the directories and then each new directory I push into that array, but I keep track of what its parent name is. Yeah, I could figure it out that. Yeah. I don't want to do it though. It doesn't bring me joy, so I'm not going to do it. But Quick is super interesting. Now, the thing about me and the kind of apps that I write is like I write just a lot of client-side rendered apps that talk to APIs. That's mostly what I do. Like I haven't fully shifted into doing everything with Next.js. I feel like 2023 is going to be the year that I do that. But that's really what Quick is for, because Quick is not just a front-end runtime. It is a server-side runtime that can like dynamically serve up that JavaScript as needed. So I mean that's like another reason that I haven't used it yet. But the ideas are really cool because like we're even further reducing the bundle size that we send to our users. We're downloading JavaScript on demand. It's pretty cool. Stencil. Heard of it, not interested in learning it. Like I mentioned earlier, Lit is I like Lit for making web components. Stencil is for making web components. Other options you use for current section not mentioned in the list above. Is there anything I used that wasn't listed? I mean, I mainly just use like Vue, Svelte, and React. So, Yeah, okay. Overall happiness. On a scale of 1, very unhappy, to 5, very happy, how happy are you with the current overall state of things as it relates to the options listed above? I'm happy. So I think really like the way to answer this question is like, is there a thing in this list that brings me joy and like I have fun using when I'm building apps? And there is. Like I really like using Vue. Solid was really fun to learn just now. Svelte is fun to use. These things make me happy. There are aspects of like React and the React ecosystem that do not make me happy, which is why I don't have very happy here. I'm happy. Let's move on. All right, now we're into meta frameworks. So I've used Next.js. I would use it again. Like this is kind of like the de facto way to build React apps these days, anyways. Like basically, Next.js is smart enough to figure out if your app should be completely statically rendered, or if it should be single page application, or if it should be server rendered. Like it figures all of that out for you, and you don't even have to make those architecture decisions. You just write the code and it figures it out. Similarly, so does Nuxt, so does Remix, so does SvelteKit, and Solid Start, which is why it would make sense to use these days. But a lot of times I just want to build I want to build a simple front end app, and I don't want to have to deploy it to a server. Now, with things like Versal and Netlify functions and Firebase serverless functions, it's really easy to build server functions these days. But still, I like being able to put something on a CDN and just, that's it. I don't need anything complex there. So everything's better than React these days. That's just my opinion. Like, I mean, my opinions are coming from a long history of frustration with the React community and React itself. Like SolidJS is like a breath of fresh air because like all the weird little things about React that I didn't like, it kind of just solves that. I don't like JSX, so like I actually don't like this, but I've already come to terms with the fact that because React got so popular and so many people are familiar with using JSX, this is now the language of front-end web developers. Like this is what things are going to use. And so like if I have to use JSX, Solid it seems more fun to me than React. So yeah. Thank you for the hydrate, Real Nixu. I don't have any water, but I do have fresh squeezed Red Bull, so we'll drink some of that. Guy's in the corner with Angular. I think Angular is fine. Yeah. I don't know. So if Ryan from Solid is still here, any opinions on that? So like, actually, no. I think it's not built in, but in the Solid example video that we watched, they did it with raw, like DOM elements. They didn't. The first example they showed was with DOM elements instead of with JSX. So it's probably possible. I don't know if it has like first class support. Like if you're using JSX with Solid, it is probably smart enough to do the like right rendering things, and you may not run into that if you're doing it like with vanilla DOM or trying to use your own template language. But what do you squeeze data at Red Bull? It's what's that like? Make it at home beverages. What are those called? SodaStream. It's a SodaStream. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think so. I was a big proponent of Vue, but I think people are so entrenched in the React ecosystem and so used to JSX and like how React works that it actually is a bit of a jump to get them to want to use something like Vue. Whereas I see for people that are so dead set on React, the jump seems easier to Solid, which is why I think that might actually win out. And similarly to like instead of them jumping to Svelte, but because like React developers really like JSX, and Svelte doesn't use JSX. So even though it has like really good ideas and it's like really performant, I think it's going to be harder to convince React developers to use something like Svelte. So that's my prediction: is 2023 is the year of SolidJS. Okay. Nuxt, I have used it and I would use it again. So on Friday, Uh, it's just going to be a stream where we figure out what we're going to be building for like the next 2 months. So if you tuned into Coding Garden before, we were building an app called Fresh Spots, and we just worked on that same app every Friday for like 2.5 months. This Friday, we're going to come up with another app that we're going to build, and that'll be our Friday app. And I'm thinking that we use Nuxt, because I've really been wanting to use Nuxt version 3, which is out. It's out of release candidate. It's available. It's stable. And I would really like to build an app with this. So I want I've used Nuxt 2. I used Nuxt 3 when it was in release candidate, but now I'm ready. I'm ready to. And what's up, Conrad? I'm ready to use Nuxt 3. So that's probably what we'll choose. I think Solid Start. So Solid Start is the meta framework for Solid, the thing that we just talked about. But I think it's fairly new. Yeah, it's in beta. So I don't think we're. if you tuned into the Friday streams over the past 2.5 months, we were using a framework called Fresh, and this was just a little bit too new for me. Like, I got so tired and frustrated with new things, like things that they hadn't thought out yet, or that I had to figure out, or that I had to go write my own library for. So for this next app we built, I wanted to be something that is fairly stable, and Nuxt 3 seems like it's the way to go. So eventually I want to build something with Solid Start, though. But yeah, okay, let's keep moving. Gatsby, I've used it, and I wouldn't use it again. I think these days Astro is the thing you would use if you're trying to do what you used to do with Gatsby. For the most part, I guess they don't really have like the GraphQL data stuff that Gatsby has, but you can kind of just bring your own data solution. Yeah. And that's the thing, Clicky Poo, is like, I want the project to bring me joy. Like, I don't want to dread working on the thing every Friday. So, yeah. I actually have not used Remix. I'd like to learn it. I remember when Remix first came out, I was like, how is this different from Next.js? Like, why would I stop using Next and stop using this? Or and start using this? And I still don't know the answer to that, but a lot of people have talked about Remix, and like I think one of the things that might do really well is routing. I think people like the routing and nested routing in Remix versus in Next.js. So I do want to learn it. I know that it's like it's a thing. It potentially has potential. It potentially has potential. It has potential to be the de facto thing, whereas Next is currently the de facto thing in the React world. No, I don't know how that's going to go, because like Next.js is backed by Vercel, and a lot of people deploy their, like, it's fine-tuned to work with Next apps. I don't know if Remix has a similar thing. So data mutations are easier. That's cool. Data loading is where it shines. Okay, yeah, so I'll have to try it at some point. I haven't tried it yet, but I would like to learn it. All right, Astro. I've used it, and I'd use it again. I did a stream where we built the same static site in multiple different ways, and then we tried out Astro for the first time. It's gosh darn amazing. What was amazing was the website that Astro generated was the exact same website that we wrote by hand at first. So we had a 3-page website, and the first way we built it was just, we literally coded each HTML file. We did it by hand, and we wrote all of that code, and then we also built it with I guess React. We did it server side rendered with like Express and I forget the templating language we used, and then we did it with Astro. But the code that Astro generated was the actual exact code that we wrote when we did it as a static website. But the code we wrote with Astro, I think, was just like React components, which was pretty cool. What is this React thingy under the stream player? What do you mean? What do you mean? Is it on Twitch? Oh, we're experimenting with reactions. Viewers can react to specific moments during your stream. We'll share these reactions with you anonymously on your stream summary page. Oh. So yeah, feel free to react at any point. React with how you're feeling, and then I can go look at the stats later on today. Interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that was there. Ryan is saying next 13 might make me finally learn React. Okay. Remix was required by Shopify. That's cool. Cool. Talking about React. Okay. Levity, it sounds familiar, but I'm gonna say I haven't heard of it. Don't know what it is. Let's look it up, actually. I'm not gonna change my answer, but we are gonna look it up. Levity Milano? Well, oh wait. This link was gray, so I have clicked on this before. Wow, somebody, I've heard of it. Okay, I've heard of it, but I'm not interested in it. I'm gonna keep it as I haven't heard of it. I'm not sure what it is because I didn't even remember it. I think somebody maybe asked me about it in stream, and I was like, I have no idea what this is. But honestly, it looks like it's kind of like Astro. It's a static site thing. Like you have a simple markdown file, and then you generate the website, and it does it. So, yeah, seems cool. SvelteKit, I have heard of it, and I've used it, and I would use it again. Yeah, SvelteKit is cool. And actually, yeah, Coding Garden, the Coding Garden website is built with SvelteKit, and I'm using the adapter static, so the entire website is half a single page application. So you can see, like, when I click here, it's like an instant page load because that's a single page application. But also when it generated the website, this page got generated as its own page separately. So there's no server runtime. It's all just static files. But it generated it in a pretty cool way. So I've used SvelteKit for that, and I was using it for some other things that I was working on too. I've heard of Docosaurus. Honestly, I'll say I'd like to learn. Let's look into it. Build optimized websites quickly and focus on your content. That's why I've heard of it, is because, like, you see this layout. I mean, I don't know if Vue.js is using Docosaurus, but it looks exactly the same. Or like Vite, look at their website, or Vitest. They look like Docosaurus. It could be that Docosaurus just looks like whatever the Vue thing is. The Nuxt website, yeah, they all have like this similar landing page layout. I would be curious though if we look at the Vite docs. Oh, it's using VitePress, which is a Vue thing for generating docs. Vite and Vue powered doc generator. Oh, and then VuePress got replaced by VitePress. I see. Docosaurus is powered by React. Okay. I have heard of it. No, I have... Wait. I've heard of it, and I would not like to learn it. So, I don't think there's an option for that. I have not heard of it, and I guess I'm not interested in it. Yeah, that makes sense. That one. Any other options here? I don't think so. Overall happiness, I'm neutral. Again, like I mentioned earlier, I don't use a lot of these meta frameworks. I typically just focus on like completely front end stuff that can be hosted on a static server. But I think, like I said earlier, 2023 is going to be the year where I do more hybrid server rendered stuff. Okay, testing. I've used Jest, and I probably won't use it again now that Vtest is a thing. So Vtest is fast. It has a Jest compatible API. Same thing with Mocha. Like, if you want to use the well, no, I guess Mocha is just the test runner. Chai would be the expectations, but you can have Chai style expectations with VTest. VTest is the future. I've used Storybook. I would probably use it again. I don't know of any good alternatives to Storybook, but I don't like how manual it is to create Storybook things. It requires a lot of code instead of just like dynamically figuring out where my components are to generate it. It's cumbersome. That's the word I have for Storybook. The Style Guidist is the one that I've used that I really like because you don't have to add a lot of extra stuff. You just add a JSX section and it automatically pulls that out into documentation. If there were a way to do that with Storybook, I'd be a lot happier. Cypress, I've used it. I would use it again. This is end-to-end testing. There's that new one from that small company, Microsoft. What's it called? Whatever it is, it's like a replacement for Cypress in terms of running end-to-end tests. Ava, I have heard of it. Yeah, that small Playwright. That's the one. That small indie company. Playwright is the one. It kind of seems like Playwright it would be the replacement for Cypress, but I don't know. Competition is good, and Microsoft doesn't need to own everything, so I'll probably keep using Cypress. Ava is a test runner. Oh, I see. Heard of it, not interested. I thought this was not heard of it. So I've heard of Ava, not interested, really just because I use VTest. But Ava was cool when it came out because it was all about running your tests in parallel. Do they not have their own website? Yeah, this logo. Look at that. Minimal and fast, simple test syntax. What was this the other one where? Yeah, so I liked. This was one of the first test runners where instead of having just like, at least for one of the first that I saw, instead of having magic describe and it variables, you literally just import it from Ava, which was pretty cool. I think you can do it in a similar way with like describe and it, but to me it was cool to see that like you just actually import the things. So heard of it, but also not interested because again, like VTest seems like the way to go for everything. So, Jasmine used it, wouldn't use it again. Jasmine is typically what you use to test Angular apps, but yeah. Puppeteer, I've never used Puppeteer for testing, but I have used it for like browser automation. So yeah, I'd use it again. Testing library, used it and would use it again. Typically, I would use testing library in conjunction with VTest. I've heard of Playwright, not interested. Like I said, we'll use Cypress. And what's up, Stack to Pile? Welcome in. Thank you very much for that raid. What were you working on? Programming a language assembler in Linux. Nice. I only speak English over here, so hopefully that's all right for everyone that came over. But thank you very much for the raid. And we'll give a shout out to you. I'll definitely have to tune in. I'm trying to brush up on my Spanish. I mean, I don't know a lot of Spanish. I want to learn Spanish is what I'm trying to say. So I've tuned into some Spanish tech streamers just to like be immersed in Spanish and stuff. But currently I am doing the 2022 JavaScript survey, which you can go here. Yo hablo un poquito español. No hablo español. But if you go there, you can take this survey. I'm currently on, let's see. We're not even halfway through yet. Oh man, this is a long survey. I'm here. And honestly, I will say this, like if you're going to take this survey, at least go to the resources section because I'm actually listed there. So if you go in resources and you go to video creators and you click on show more, there I am, coding garden. So if you do anything today, check my name there because when the survey results come out, there are going to be a lot of people that hadn't heard of me that will hear of me because I'm on this survey. So if you take this survey, please mention that you watch me. I'm not going to select myself. No, I'm going to just choose the ones that I actually do watch and use. ¿Dónde está la biblioteca? Yeah. I guess that's true. It's taking me a long time because I keep talking about stuff. I could just answer all the questions. Yeah. Playwright is ridiculously faster than Cypress. Good to hear. I don't know. Competition is good. Like, Microsoft owns GitHub. They own VS Code. What else do they own? like you could be an open source developer and you're still using. Do they own npm too? But I think that's the crazy thing is like you want to be like a developer in the open source world, and now you're using all of this proprietary technology from Microsoft. I guess not all of it's proprietary though. A lot of it is open source, but I don't know. GitHub bought npm. Oh my goodness. But yeah, what's up, Stack the Pile? Thank you for bringing all of your friends over. We're taking this survey over here. If you're a web dev, if you use JavaScript at all, definitely check this survey out. LinkedIn, Skype, GitHub. Wait, Microsoft owns LinkedIn? All right. Okay, maybe I would like to learn Playwright. That's what I'm going to do. WebDriver, I've heard of it, but I'm not interested. I do believe, like, does Cypress use WebDriver under the hood? And also, okay, now we're at VTest. It's awesome. I'd use it. I would use it again. I've used Selenium a long time ago, but I think these days there are better options than Selenium. Test Cafe? Never heard of it. Cool. Overall happiness. I'm a genuinely happy person. I got enough sleep last night. I'm happy. All right, mobile and desktop. Electron. I would use it, and I would use it again. Look at me. This is an Electron app. And it was really easy to build because I already know web technologies, and it was really easy to make it transparent, which is a bit harder to do with other desktop development frameworks. I've used React Native. I mean, I think if I were building a native app and I needed real native features, I probably would pick React Native just because of the ecosystem and everything. But I would also consider Flutter. I'm a developer, and it's partially... Wait, what do you mean by that, Stack the File? My fault? Yeah. Oh, yeah, look at that. It's right on the edge. Our edge detection isn't the best, so yeah. Because I don't use LinkedIn. But also, Jan, did you unfollow my channel? You used to be followed, and now you're unfollowed. Oh well. Maybe you never followed. That's fine. Okay, and what's up, Abel? Welcome in. All right. Yeah, so I probably would use React Native. It just seems like it's the best in that class of things. Like, your other options are like native script, which seems fine. Don't know. Native apps. Does this just mean like an iOS app? Does this just mean Android apps? Because I've built Android apps. I've built iOS apps. Like, this isn't like some JavaScript framework, is it? Yeah, I'll build native apps if the situation arises where I would need to. Cordova, these days, so if you're building hybrid mobile web applications, I think that's what they mean by native apps, like Kotlin for Android apps, Swift for iOS apps, Swift for Mac apps, C# for Windows apps. Yeah, native OS apps. Yeah, sure. Cordova is a thing you can use whenever you're building hybrid mobile apps. So if you're building a mobile app that's hosting a web view, and that web view wants to communicate with native device features, Cordova is a way to do that. But the new way to do it is with Capacitor.js. From the same team that brought you Ionic. But you can use Capacitor without Ionic. So my answer for this one is I wouldn't use Cordova again because I would just use Capacitor. That said, there are a couple of things that don't exist as Capacitor plugins where you might actually need to use Cordova plugins. So I'm changing my answer to I would use it again because I was recently looking into... Oh, thank you, Stack the Pile. I appreciate that. And thanks for the raid. Yeah. That's great. That's great. But I was looking into building a hybrid mobile app, and I wanted to have background functionality. Like I need it to always be running in the background. And the latest version of Capacitor got rid of that plugin. And I think one of the only ways to do it is with the Cordova plugin or writing your own plugin. Cordova? How else would you pronounce Cordova?
Cordova.
Cordova. Cordova. Cordova? 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 Cordova. Cordova?
Cordova.
Cordova. It's a long... So in English, vowel consonant vowel would make this a long O, like O instead of A. So Cordova. Cordova.
Cordoba. Cordoba.
Cordoba. Cordoba. Yeah, so in English it is Cordova, but Cordova. Cordova. Cool. Ionic. Honestly, I don't think I would use it again. So I had a really bad experience with Ionic just because of their component framework. I just really did not jive with. I don't know. Wait, just let me look at the website. Why are you going to ask me to sign up? Oh, when you click getting started, that asks you to sign up. That's weird. That should take me to the guide. I think I might have used version 5. I don't know if things have changed, but when I used Ionic to build a mobile app, I was using React. And the thing is, all of the components were actually written as web components. So Ionic wrote web components, and then they wrote a bridge for all of those web components to work with all of these other frameworks like Angular, React, and Vue, and everything else. But the issue with that is the React components didn't expose the API that I would have liked. Like things were missing, or things didn't work the way that I would expect in React because they were actually web components. So that's what I really didn't like about Ionic. What is cool, though, about Ionic is that it will automatically style it depending on where you deploy it to. So, for instance, let's look at a button. A button. You can see that when you run your Ionic app on iOS, it's going to look like an iOS button. And then when you run your Ionic app on Android, it's going to look like Material Design. So that's one of the cool things about their component library. I really wish there was like a component library that had these stylings but wasn't tied to like Ionic components. So yeah. Okay, let's keep moving. Capacitor, would use it again. Like I mentioned earlier, it's like the new replacement for Cordova. NWJS, heard of it, not interested, honestly. Like Electron. So NWJS is a competitor to Electron. And I would just choose Electron just because I'm familiar with it. I know it's potentially faster, potentially has some better APIs, but I'm just familiar with Electron, so I'll keep using it. Expo is what gets tied to React Native. And that's part of the ecosystem I was talking about. That's like really nice for React Native apps. Quasar is kind of like your other like if you don't want to use Ionic, Quasar would be the way to go because they also do hybrid mobile, but they also allow you to take that same app and run it as an Electron app or run it as a progressive web app. Nice job. So Quasar is cool. I've really only used the component feature of it, but it would be cool to build a completely cross-platform app with it. Yeah. So there's Tari. You're not gonna like my answer. I've heard of it and I'm not interested. So I did a stream where I tried it out, and one of the things I didn't like about Tari is that doing native things requires me to learn an entirely new API. So I was trying to read and write a file to the file system, and I'm technically writing JavaScript code, but it's JavaScript code that's bridged to like native Rust code. And I was just banging my head against the wall trying to figure out like what are the right permissions I needed to request. And like my whole deal was, if I want to do these things and I want to use JavaScript, I want to use the API that I already know. Like I want to use the Node.js file system API or the Dino file system API. I don't want to have to learn an entirely new API. And then one of the benefits that Tari gives you is that instead of running an entire Chromium instance for every single one of your apps, and thank you, Limotes, I appreciate that. But with Electron, every single Electron app is running its own instance of Chromium. And that's why it uses so much memory, and that's why a lot of people don't like it. But Tari doesn't. It uses the system web view, and there are frameworks that work that way for web stuff. And no worries, Stacklopile. Thanks again for that raid. We'll see you. Why is one getting... I didn't write the collision code, so somebody made a pull request with the collision code, and that's kind of what happens sometimes. Like, if they collide, one of them just goes off into infinity. Neutralino, I think, is probably it. Yeah, so this is like Electron, but instead of embedding Chromium, it uses the system web view. In Electron and NWJS, you have to install Node and hundreds of dependencies, embedded Chromium, make apps bloaty. Neutralino doesn't bundle Chromium and uses the existing web browser library. So like Neutralino, you can still use Node and everything you know about Node, but instead of bundling Chromium, it just uses the system web view. So that's what I would use. NativeScript, I've heard of it. I would like to learn. I've never actually built anything with NativeScript, but it would be cool to see how it compares to React Native. Cool. Overall, neutral. I don't do a lot of mobile and desktop. So yeah, not happy one way or the other. All right, build tools. Webpack. I've used it and I'm not going to use it again. Like now having Vite, like Vite is the future. Like obviously it's going to cause Webpack to continue to innovate. So a couple of years ago when Parcel came out, like the zero config thing that Parcel could do was kind of amazing. And then Webpack came out with, I think, version 4. Was it 3 or 4 that was zero config? And that was awesome. And so like then it became, okay, you can use Webpack and you don't have to come up with all this configuration anymore. But still, if you wanted to do more custom things, there was still quite a bit of configuration that needed to happen. And then ES Build came along and just beat them all out. So it's faster than Parcel and Rollup and Webpack. And ES Build is what Vite uses under the hood. So like, yeah, that's the thing. So yeah, I don't think I'll ever purposefully choose to use Webpack. Similarly with Parcel, like for me, all of these things is just like use Vite. And Vite technically integrates and uses Rollup plugins, so I still would use Rollup plugins. Gulp is the old thing. Nice. Gulp is the wasn't Gulp before Grunt? No, Grunt came first. Which one was configuration based? But these are like older bundling tools that you don't really use anymore because of the newer stuff. Like I mentioned, Parcel is like zero config. Rollup is still relevant because you can use Rollup plugins with Vite. Browserify isn't really relevant anymore. You have all of the other ways of pulling in and doing requires and import stuff in the browser. Gulp was piping, Grunt was more config. Okay, that makes sense then. So yeah, Gulp came after Grunt. But I remember, yeah, when Gulp came out, everyone was all about it. It's like, oh yeah, you don't have to have like a gigantic messy config anymore. You can actually write JavaScript code that is your build process. But yeah, and not to knock on anyone that's still using these things. I think if you start a new project, you probably wouldn't choose one of these things because there are better options. That's really all that I'm saying. But there's a lot of legacy projects out there or projects started a year or two ago where it still makes sense to use these things. If it uses rollup when building and ESBuild when in dev mode, I thought it used a combination of both. What's the current best practice to use node libraries in a browser environment? You don't. So if something is meant to run inside of Node, there are technically like polyfills that you could pull in, but you typically wouldn't want to do that. What I was mentioning is like the replacement for Browserify is just the fact that people publish their modules now as ECMAScript modules or as CommonJS modules, and then the build tools that we're using that use like Babel or like the TypeScript compiler, they already know how to pull those packages in. So I guess the answer is, like let's say you're using Vite to create a React app, and you need to install something from npm and import it in. You just do it. Like you type import, you put the name of the thing you installed, and it kind of just works. There's no like extra process there, and it's hidden how it handles that in their build process. I guess. Am I answering your question? But like there are node libraries that like you shouldn't use in the web browser. But there are libraries that were written in CommonJS format that you might want to use in the web browser that don't do anything native or node specific that you can use just by importing them in like a modern project that has like build tools set up. Does that make sense? Let's keep moving. TypeScript CLI, I use it. Rome, never heard of it. Don't know what it is. Snowpack, heard of it. Not interested. I think again like Vite is kind of like winning out over all of this. SWC, I believe, is what Next.js uses under the hood. This could be the chicken tender, the contender that puts up a fight against Vite. It's a Rust-based platform for the web. So in 2023, so a speedy web compiler, I do believe this is what Next.js uses under the hood. This could be the thing that outpaces Vite or ESBuild. But yeah, I've used ESBuild indirectly, like with Vite, so I'll just say that I use it. And again, I've been talking about Vite this whole time. Like Vite is the thing that everything is using. I don't know what WMR is. TurboPack, I guess, is also the thing. Does that use SWC under the hood? Is that the thing that came from Next? Doesn't bundle for Node. I could see that. Yeah. Rust-powered successor to Webpack. TurboPack is an incremental bundler optimized for JavaScript, TypeScript, and written in Rust. Is this from the Webpack team? But the fact that they feature Next here, that I think that is that. Oh, thank you, Silent Rhetoric. Yeah, I was a little rambly, but hopefully that helped. Okay, I'm just gonna say, heard of it, not interested. But I think like this, if TurboPack doesn't use SWC under the hood, then either of those are like real contenders for 2023. I'm happy. Let's keep going. All right, I don't do a lot of mono repo stuff. I have in the past, but haven't used Rushed. I've heard of Turbo Repo, and I would like to learn it. I think Turbo Repo is the new thing that everyone's choosing from the makers of TurboPack. We give you Turbo Repo. I used Lerna for a mono repo project that I was working on a while back. That's my experience with it. Haven't used Yarn Workspaces. Haven't used... Oh, wait, no. I've heard of Yarn Workspaces. I haven't heard of Yalk. I've used Lerna. Probably wouldn't use it again because I think Turbo Repo is the way to go. Yeah. A mono repo is a repo that has multiple projects inside of it. And it makes it a whole lot easier to share resources between those projects. So One thing you could do is you could have a mono repo that has your front end code base and your back end code base as two separate projects, and then a shared code base that has like TypeScript interfaces. But the mono repo tools would let you very easily import those shared TypeScript definitions to the two projects without having to do anything weird like publishing one of them to npm and like trying to install and import that. Basically, it's all of your packages living together. An example of this is just like look at the source code of Vue.js. So if we look at Vue on GitHub, Vue. If we look at Vue and then we look at this packages directory, this is a mono repo that has these three different packages. It used to be a lot more, but now it's just these three. If you look at the React repo, same thing. It too is a mono repo. It has this packages directory, and then there's React Clash, React Client, React DevTools, React DOM. All of these are separate projects, all in this one repo. So it makes it really easy to collaborate and share code between projects without having to keep them all in one project. And each one of these folders gets its own package.json, its own list of dependencies, and then the monorepo tool that you're using will have a way of sharing dependencies between projects as well. Everyone's really liking the drop game. So like if two of these things depend on the same thing, you potentially could have a package JSON at the root of the project where the dependencies are shared between the other two. So yeah, haven't used Yarn workspaces. Never heard of Yalk. I've used Lerna, wouldn't use it. I would try to learn Turbo Repo. I've heard of npm workspaces, but I think Turbo Repo seems like the way to go. PNPM is great. If you haven't heard of PNPM, it basically, you can just replace npm with it, but instead of copying and downloading your dependencies into every single JavaScript project, it puts them in a shared location on your drive and then just adds a symlink, which makes your npm installs really fast. And it makes a whole lot of sense instead of copying them everywhere. So it's cool. NX, heard of it, not interested. I think that's what Steve Whitman mentioned. I think this is another monorepo tool. NX, smart, fast, and extensible build system with first-class monorepo support. Interesting. Yeah, okay, I'm going to say I've never heard of it because I don't even know what that was. All right, I'm happy. All right, let's go to other tools. Which libraries do I regularly use? Zod. That is it. So Eimer is an immutable data library. Lodash and underscore are like array and object utilities. Ramda is a functional programming library. jQuery is like DOM utilities. RxJS is like functional streams for data that's typically used a lot in Angular. Never heard of standard lib, but is this just like the missing standard library for JavaScript? So ever since I started using Zod on Fresh Spots, I have not stopped using it. So like any other project that's like TypeScript, I'm pretty much using Zod in it. You've got math functions, probability functions. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I don't use it though. Partytown sounds familiar. What does it do? A lazy loaded library to help relocate resource-intensive scripts into a web worker. Never heard of it. Never heard of mitosis either. Date management, typically I always just reach for date functions. I've used Luxon every now and then. Luxon is the modern successor to Moment.js. Data visualization. Did I even do any data visualization this past year? I don't think I did. Let's look up mitosis. BMind says it's rad. Write components once, run anywhere. Oh! Compiles to Vue, React, Solid, Angular, Svelte, and more. No way! That's pretty cool. So I guess this is used a lot in like micro front ends, stuff like that. Seems cool. I'm just gonna say D3 because like I would use D3, and then of all the charting libraries, Chart.js is one that I've used a lot and seems to be the one that I always reach for. It's like the easiest to use. It's cool. Okay. Graphics and animations. Sure, 3JS. I don't do a lot of animation stuff, so. What is check the ones that you use regularly. Okay, so I don't technically use TRPC regularly, but it is something that I have been reaching for. I do use Axios regularly. Let's go ahead and say I use React Query regularly because any larger React app, I will reach for React Query. I just don't do a lot of animations. Yeah, so the Greenstock animation project is something that you could use for that, but I just don't. I do like CSS animations. That's about it. Yeah. Backend frameworks. Yes, Express. I want to try Nest, but I don't use it regularly. Have I been missing the show more button on any of these? I haven't. That's it. Honestly, I probably should be using more Fastify. Yeah. Other Feathers.js. And Feathers version 5 is going to be coming out sometime in January. We're actually going to have the creator and maintainer on the stream again, like we did for the last launch. But Feathers v5 is exciting because it's going to give TRPC a run for its money. They have this concept called schemas that give you basically front end to back end type safety, but I would argue they do it in a more agnostic way than TRPC, because TRPC is like very TypeScript focused. With Feathers, you're using what's that library called? Typebox, which generates JSON schemas, and then those JSON schemas could potentially be consumed by front ends that aren't written in JavaScript. But yeah, Feathers 5 is going to be great. Oh yeah, what's up, CM Griffin? Mitosis is awesome. I had the maintainer on my stream at one point. Be happy to introduce you if that's something you want to explore. Oh yeah, I'll let you know. I might just want to try it out before that. But shouts out to our friend CM Griffin. Hopefully you're doing all right. Soap and WSDLs all over again. The thing is, like, you need a standardized way to describe an API that can be consumed by clients of various languages. Yeah, you're welcome. Of course, CM Griffin. So, yeah. All right, but yeah, I don't use any of these other things. If I want to talk about things that I want to use, probably Fastify. I want to try Nest. I'm like, I used to say that I would never try Nest.js, but in my old age, as I get older, the more and more I realize we need developers need structure. Developers need guardrails. And it just makes for a more maintainable code base, because like you could make the argument that like, all right, just write good code, just organize your code well. But people that haven't been exposed to well organized code are not very good at organizing code. So that's why I'm more and more I'm talking about like use Angular because it helps you organize your code, or use Nest because it helps you organize your code. Like, freedom is nice, but in larger projects with larger teams, opinions and organization, I think, makes a lot of sense, because otherwise it's like the Wild West. It's like the Wild West. The Alt F4 stream is using Nest. That's great. Cool. And Fagwena is saying Nest has strong Angular vibes. Yeah, and that's the vibe that I get as well. And I mean, further than that, it has strong enterprise Java vibes. Which, honestly, the more I think about it, is actually a good thing, because it forces people to like organize their code. But yeah, okay. Also, Redwood is something that I would want to check out. I've only like looked at their docs. I've never actually used it. Cool. Which utilities or tools do I regularly use? I use Node Version Manager, and that's it. What engines do I regularly use? Browser, Node, and Dino. Which edge or serverless runtimes do you regularly use? Wait, is this Versal? Why is it called Next.js Edge Runtime? Will PNPM override npm upon install? No, you'd have to set up an alias. So you can have them both installed; they won't interfere. But if you look at PNPM, they tell you that you can set up an alias. This. So technically, you could alias npm to pnpm, but they were saying it, but right here they're saying don't even do that. Only alias it to pn, so that you don't have to type pnpm. But yeah, it won't overwrite it. You can use them side by side. All right. Versal would be the only one I regularly use, and I don't even see it on this list. Like, am I mistaken? Is it just the Next.js Edge runtime? Huh. Like, does anybody know which one I should choose? Because I use Versal for everything. I think, like, technically I'm not using the Next.js Edge runtime because I'm not using Next.js. Let me make sure I'm not logged in. I'm just going to type Versal. Cool. I use TypeScript. That's about it. Non-JavaScript languages. Which other programming languages do I use? I used some C# this year. That's about it. Yeah, that's all I'll say about that. Timon is hacking the drop game. Everyone's really enjoying this drop game. Okay. Let's go to usage. Here we go. How do you divide your time between JavaScript and TypeScript code? These days, it's probably more like this. I still write a lot of JavaScript, but like more of it is TypeScript. I use it professionally. I use it for front end and back end and data analysis and desktop apps and mobile apps. I've made some games. I've visualized data. Sure. I'm in the education sector and programming and technical tools sector. I'm also in entertainment. Coding Garden is entertainment, right? What do I use C# for? I've just... Before I ever wrote JavaScript, I was a C# desktop developer. So more recently, I was using C# and .NET Core to build some APIs and just like going back into that ecosystem because I have been out of it for so long. So the answer is web APIs. That's what I built it for. But I could also use C# to build like, and I have used it to build CLI tools or Windows desktop apps. So yeah. Energy because Coding Garden gives me that. Thank you, Clicky Poo. Are you not entertained? Yeah, those are all of my industries. Application patterns. Okay. Let's talk about this for a little bit because this is what I was talking about earlier. I mostly just build single page applications. I really like, if I can, I want to build a thing that doesn't require a backend. Now, obviously, the moment you need user login and data and a database and all that, you need a backend, but that's not always the case for everything that you're building. I should reconsider? Wait, what do you mean, terawatt? Please clarify. And what's up, Zero Turner? Welcome in. So most of the stuff I build are single-page applications. Now, apps that run entirely on the server with minimal client-side dynamic behavior, I don't really build a lot of those. That's more so like server-side rendered apps. I've built those in the past, but in the past year, haven't really built those at all. Static site generation. Pre-rendered static content with or without a client dynamic element. I also haven't done a lot of that. Server-side rendering, dynamic rendering HTML content on the server before rehydrating it on the client. I don't like their separation of this, because the way they described a multi-page application, I would describe as a server-side rendered application, because server-side render isn't also synonymous with hydrating on the client. Typically, if you're building a server-side rendered app, like when I hear server-side render, I think of like handlebars and an Express app, and there's not really a built-in mechanism for doing hydrating on the client. It's all like server-side rendered. So these two are a little bit confusing. I know there are people writing technical documents and stuff. Yeah, and I think that's where they're going with that, Ghost Comrade, is like Next.js or Remix. That's kind of, when we say SSR there, that's what we mean in the Next.js world, is like rehydrating on the client, but that's not always what it means. So yeah, that's a thing. Only hydrating some of your components on the client. React server components, no. So yeah, I have done Next.js. I have done Nux in the past year. Controlling the order of component hydration on the client. How do you trigger a return or enter key using JavaScript? I don't know if you can do that programmatically. See you later, Andrew. I appreciate you for hanging out. We'll see you. Progressive enhancement, making sure an app is functional even without JavaScript. Sure. Islands architecture. Sure, we were using Dino. I guess using Dino will classify as there. Incremental static generation, being able to dynamically augment or modify a static site even after the initial build. Break down server rendered content into smaller, and actually I didn't even think about this, but coding.garden actually is statically generated. This is all static files that got generated there. Cool. And all this other stuff I haven't really used as well. So let's keep going. Opinions. JavaScript is moving in the right direction. Yeah, I guess so. Oh yeah, this one is using SvelteKit. This is built with SvelteKit, but it's all statically rendered. JavaScript is moving in the right direction. Do I agree with that? Yeah, it's only getting better. Yeah, it's only getting better. Building JavaScript apps is overly complex right now. Yeah, I agree strongly. I think people are reaching for the wrong tools more often than not, in that they're reaching for more complex tools when they actually could be using things that are much simpler. So I do agree with that sentiment. Yeah, and it also is like, in a way, it kind of like gatekeeps, because people start doing things that way, and then when someone new tries to come into the field, they try to convince them that this is like the only way to do things, and then it just scares them off from even being a web dev, because they're like, oh, I don't want to deal with all of that. So yeah, I agree, it's overly complex. The JavaScript ecosystem is changing too fast. No, I don't think, like, I think it has to change. Like, without progress, like, things get boring and stagnant. So I think it's not moving too fast. Yeah, Nest is pretty cool. JavaScript pain points. Pick the top 3 aspects of JavaScript you struggle with the most. I don't, like, okay, so the way to approach this is like, do I know of a good solution for doing these things? And do I often run into this issue? So for state management, I don't think so, because like, if I know how to do it in React, I know how to do it in Vue, it's not something that I struggle with. So yeah, that's not a pain point. Code architecture. It's not something I personally struggle with, but in working with other developers that aren't as familiar with organizing and structuring their code base, that is the point that I was making earlier about like how Angular is so opinionated and how Nest.js is so opinionated. Like, it forces people to organize and maintain their code in a way that other things don't. So, yeah. Finding and evaluating JavaScript packages, no, that's fine. Debugging, that's fine. Managing dependencies, that's fine. Handling async functions, that's fine. Writing JavaScript modules, that's fine. Handling and manipulating dates and times, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's like I choose a library for that, like date functions. So yeah. JS has gotten so much better in the last 5 years, and React makes it fun. Yeah. What do you feel is currently missing from JavaScript? It's not missing static typing. Stop trying to make static typing happen. Like, JavaScript is the way it is. You can add static typing as a build tool, but don't force me to use types. I don't think we need a standard library. We definitely don't need the pipe operator. All the functional programmers are gonna want the pipe operator. I definitely don't like decorators. Immutable data structures could be cool. Let's go with that. What do you feel is currently missing from JavaScript? The thing is, like, the temporal and observable or like proxies already exist. They're not missing. Better date management? Yeah, I guess so. So yeah, I would argue that even the new temporal API is missing things. Like, I don't think it even has a format function, does it? Decorators can be great. Yeah. I just don't want JavaScript to turn into C# or Java. And like, that's kind of what TypeScript is, the C# version of JavaScript. And there are ways to do decorator things without decorators. Like, you basically just pass things into functions, whereas decorators, they look like it's just on top of a method, but really it's like passing that method or thing into the decorator function, which returns a new version of that method. So you can do it without decorators. Let's get the temporal API. I don't think it has a format function. We need a format function. Like, I want to be able to pass in a format string and get back that format string from the date. We still can't do that. Or can we? No. So this takes in a date in a specific format, and we'll give you back a date. Same thing here. But I want to be able to take a date object and say format, and say that I want like month, day, year, that kind of thing. That doesn't, I don't think that exists in the temporal API. So I would argue we need better date management. Okay, let's keep going. How happy are you with the general state of web technologies? It's fine. I'm happy. General state of JavaScript, I'm fine. All right, let's keep going. First learning methods. When first starting out, how did you initially learn coding? Self-directed learning. On-the-job training. School and higher education. That's about it. Yeah, so I have never liked books. My first dev job, I got a bunch of books because the company paid for them, but like I never read them. I got like the design patterns book, and I'm probably the only one that I actually read was Pragmatic Programmer. But yeah, I mean, and I got a giant book on .NET and a giant book on like WPF, but I maybe looked at them 2 or 3 times. Everything else I just found in online resources. I have never really taken course. It's really weird because like I'm working on my own courses and I'm producing video content right now. Like, you're watching me, but I personally don't really learn that way. I don't learn from courses or anything like that. And I did get a computer science degree, so yeah, that's it. What blogs and magazines do I read? I guess dev.to every now and then, though. No, exactly. I mean, even the .NET book is outdated at this point because we're like 4 or 5 versions later. You knew people that wrote books for O'Reilly, but they had no clue what they were actually saying. Yeah. Perfect word for it. Scam. Wait. Books are a scam. Is that what you're saying? So yeah, I kind of read dev.to because I posted on there. I've looked at best of JS. Is good. It's not a. Is it a blog too? I know bestofjs.org. Yeah, I think this is what they're talking about, and we've looked at this quite a lot on stream. Oh, courses? Sure. Sure. But, Terawatt, my courses are not going to be a scam. My courses are going to be the best thing ever released. I have really high hopes and high ambitions for it. Just because I know what I want it not to be. I know what I don't want to do. Also, nobody's commented on my shirt. Isn't this cool? It says Merry Christmas. Okay. So yeah, we'll check that one. I've looked at JavaScript Weekly every now and then, but I don't look at it constantly. Definitely CSS tricks. That's about it. All right, sites and courses. I consult Stack Overflow, MDN. Never use web.dev. Yeah, that's it. Thank you, Clicky Poo. Terrible. All right, other sites and courses. This is the point. So if you're taking this survey, consider checking Coding Garden on here because I made it on the list. I think that, so regardless of what rank I get in here, if I'm in the results of the State of JS survey, so many more people look at the results than actually take the survey. So this actually will be really good, really good advertisement for the Coding Garden channel. Kinsey Dodds and Epic React are the same. Oh, and this previous one? I think Epic React has more people behind it than just Kinsey Dodds. There's some courses that are like, actually, there are courses on Egghead.io that are from Kinsey Dodds, and I think Epic React has like a whole team behind it. I don't know. Creators I follow on video-centric platforms. I follow Fireship. I watched his most recent video last night. It was really entertaining about basically like what happened in 2022 and what's to come. Things are going to get weird in 2023. So definitely watch that if you haven't. It was a fun watch. Coding Train is on here, I do believe. Yeah, there he is. Boom. So, I mean, we can actually look at my subscriptions, but I am subscribed to Kevin Powell as well. Channels. I thought I was. These are not... I have more subscriptions than this. Where did all of that go? But yeah, the CSS guy. He used to stream on Twitch. I don't know if he does anymore. Let's see. Brad Traversy, of course. I keep an eye on Web Dev Simplified. I think like most of the stuff he publishes is pretty beginner focused, but I honestly... I use it as inspiration for things that I might talk about or that I might teach from for beginners. So, yeah, and sadly, Fun Function isn't really happening anymore. Though I mean, it did get they passed it on to a new video creator, but I think they kind of stopped making videos. When did... Oh, maybe that was in between when MPJ was streaming on Twitch, because like all of these are like cut down from Twitch streams. But there was a moment where Fun Function actually got passed on to another creator. Did they remove those videos? That's crazy. But yeah, true Ghost Comrade, because if like all of his stuff on like functional programming and stuff in JavaScript and test-driven development and array methods, it's all still super relevant. So it's actually pretty cool that he can still have an impact on devs, even videos that are like 4 or 5 years old. I technically follow... I mean, I'm not going to check myself. I think he didn't retire, but he went on a hiatus 2 years ago. He was streaming pretty consistently over here on Twitch. Yeah. Martin Fowler's book Refactoring. Honestly, I probably owned it at one point, but I never read it. Yeah. Okay. That is it. That's it. So I'll check MeDo Dev because I follow him over here on Twitch. I think he rated us one time. But he streams in Spanish. But he like in the Spanish speaking world, he's one of the biggest creators for sure. Cool. Okay, I'll check myself. Why not? Like I gotta gotta do something. I'll also add in here Trash Dev. I tune into his stream every now and then. Mewtrue. Who else do I watch on Twitch? CM Griffin. Who else? Can look at. I guess can I look at my follow list? I don't know. Yeah, so like I follow both the Primogen and Theo. I don't really watch them that much though. I think it's like it's the cool thing to like if you're following tech people on Twitch, you have to be following Theo and the Primogen. But that doesn't mean I actually watch them. Yeah, I'll add C# Fritch here too. And it's no dig on them, right? It's just like they're not my cup of tea. And like we've been rated by the Primogen. We've rated them. Like we're still amicable, but I just don't watch it. I mean, I'll check it because honestly, if he's the only one streaming, I will put him on in the background. I'll say that. All right. What programming related podcast do I listen to? Syntax is the only one that I'm subscribed to. I used to listen to JavaScript Jabber a ton. So I used to when I had like a 20 to 30 minute commute, I would listen to like every episode of JavaScript Jabber, but I don't have a commute anymore. I don't really find the time to listen to any of these podcasts. I also I don't really listen to Syntax that much. But I still subscribe to, like, if you look at my podcast list, it's still on there. So we'll check it. People you read, follow, or just want to highlight for their work. No. What other surveys do I participate in? I actually have. This is one of the first surveys I've participated in. So that's a thing. All right. About me. How old am I? I'm not going to answer this on stream. How many years of experience do I have? 11 to 20 years. Company size? It's just right now. It's my. It's just me. It's Coding Garden is just me. My yearly salary right now. Let's do the math. Right. So, I have 313 subscribers, and honestly, it's not. I don't think it's fair to answer in this survey how much I make, because it's going to skew, it's going to think that that's my salary, but it's like I'm figuring things out. I'm going to put I work for free, because right now 313 subs, roughly $2.50 each. I am making $782 a month on Twitch. Plus right now I'm making I think about $89 a month on Patreon. So there's $89. And what's up, Mr. Demon Wolf? What do you mean, what about YouTube? Like creators that I watch on... Oh, what do I make on YouTube? Yeah, we'll answer that next. And then right now, I make $40 a month on YouTube. So I don't have ads enabled on YouTube. And also, like, I don't do things that a YouTube channel should to get more views and to make more revenue. Like, the traditional playbook for making a YouTube channel is you make short consumable videos where you get outside sponsors that pay you either per view or per video that you do. And you try to drive as many views as possible to those videos so that you get advertising revenue. I do none of that. And it's just my own personal thing. My current estimated revenue over the past 28 days on YouTube is $68. Let's look at analytics. Yeah, so I think there are like one or two videos that are consistently getting views, so I left ads enabled on them. Other than that, I disabled ads on almost every video, mainly because they don't really get that many views. Like, I'm not doing clickbait type content or easily consumable content. Like the videos that I've published since I started doing this full time are the setting up a Mac for web development. Like, this was like a like a 5-hour stream that I edited down to like an hour and a half. It's gotten 75,000 views, but that's over the past 4 months. It's not like I got all of those 75,000 views at once. This is this video right here is a resource that people will continue to use for the next like 2 to 3 years, or like probably like the next 2 years. Because if you look at my last setting up a Mac for web development video, it is one of the most popular videos on my channel of all time. Look at that, 221,000 views, but it was published 2 years ago. So like over time it gets more views, but it's not like a video drops and then I get a bunch of money. I could buy your whole family for this amount of money. So $68 per month, let's say that. So we've got Twitch revenue, Patreon revenue. What was this, 40? Oh, I guesstimated, and then $68 from YouTube. So my monthly income is $939. And if you want to multiply that whole thing by 12, that means before tax, my salary would be $11,000 a year. It is. I'm not going to put that because that would make it seem like I'm a developer that makes very little money. We're rich. What's up, Latte the Dev? But all that to say, like what I hope. So like let's do the numbers for, so like this is how much I'm making right now, right? And really this pays half of my rent. I have a wife. She pays the other half. She also pays for food and living expenses and stuff like that. And I have some savings. So right now I'm not really like making any money. But let's say I launch a course and I sell it for $10 a piece. And let's say there are 500 people that buy that course. That would be my month. And if I get 500 people to buy the course per month, and then I do this, that's about 75. Like that's respectable, right? I can live off of that. So that's the goal, is that like I sell a certain number of courses per month. And that'll make my money. Yeah, and I think that's the thing, right, Jan, is like I can mess around with the pricing too. And that's kind of what I want to do, because like for a student, I want to charge $1. Or like $5, I don't know. Yeah, I want to make it affordable. But then if somebody currently has a job and like they're using their company's I forget the names that they call it, but a lot of companies, like personal improvement plans or whatever, like the companies will pay for their employees to like take online courses or go to conferences. And if that's the case, then I could charge $100 for those people. And let's say there's like, I don't know, 50 of those people that pay $100 for the course. And then 300 people that pay $5 for the course. And then maybe there's someone in between that like they're employed, but they're paying for it themselves. And maybe we charge them $30 and maybe there's 100 of them. I can make more money that way. So this piece right here is the one that's missing because I haven't launched a course yet. But ideally, once that piece is there, then I will be making some actual money. But in the meantime, I'm just going to say that I work for free. Yes, I have a degree in computer science. I am in the United States. Do courses actually sell that well? It depends. I mean, I'm going off the number 500 because that's how many people I have on my mailing list right now. I mean, I only started my mailing list back in July. Honestly, I should have had a mailing list this whole time I've had Coding Garden, but I wasn't smart enough to do that. But at this point, I have about 500 people on my mailing list. So I'm assuming roughly that amount of people, like the people that I have reached to, would buy my course. But I just think of like, when you look at courses on Udemy, like the number of people taking these courses are like insane, right? Like the Colt Steele Web Developer Bootcamp has 250,000 reviews. And Libamaj, thank you very much for the resub who says, have a nice day. Thank you. 800,000 students over its lifetime. Obviously, I can't expect numbers that high, but I do believe my content will be on par, comparable to what some of these other courses that have been released. You can also look at like what Wes Boss does. And if you look at his courses, obviously he's been doing it a long time. He has like name brand recognition. Like people went out and bought the beginner. Wait, was this one free? There's some courses on here that just everyone just bought because they knew who Wes Boss was, and not even everyone even took the course. But like if you look at beginner JavaScript, 21,000 people have purchased his beginner JavaScript course. There needs to be a Coding Garden beginner JavaScript course that like at least 1,000 people buy. He has a React for beginners. I am similarly. This is the course that I'm working on right now. I actually have a name for it. It's React Roots. Because it's the Coding Garden. Get it? Right? React Roots? For React for me. It's the roots. It's gonna I don't know. That's what I'm gonna call the course. Yeah, thank you. But it's gonna be a patent pending. Yeah, it's gonna be I already talked about like I don't like React, but people want to learn React, so I'm gonna teach it to them. And the thing is, like, my dislike for React is even more reason to listen to me, because like I've I'm just reading Terawatt, who says scam. Yeah, become a $10,000 full stack React developer. I'm always worried there'll be too many developers in the job market for devs will not be there in the short future. Yeah, I mean, I've thought about this as well, like with all of the layoffs, with this idea that AI is going to take over, like it's possible, but the thing is, the stuff that's in the news about layoffs are large companies, right? All the FANG companies. Smaller companies are still hiring. Like they're still those FANG companies just were way too bloated, and the job market is correcting at this point. But there are other companies that are smaller and they're still hiring. It's not like they're laying off. So. No, I said I would use React again in the survey. Make a Kickstarter for my course? No, I want to really avoid anything that could be interpreted as a scam, right? Because like people could try to fund me or kickstart me, and then it takes me forever to release the course. I don't want that kind of pressure. Like I want it to be done, polished, I release it, and then people buy it if they think it's useful. Is the tech bubble bursting? I don't know. Codex is saying small layoffs are starting now. I think like we're in a recession. Like we are seeing the recession happen. The fact that there are layoffs happening is we're in a recession. So when we bounce back from that recession is like, yeah, I don't know. What are we going to do? But I think at the same time, with all that said, there are going to be a lot of people that want to shift into a technical career because they got laid off from their job and now they have a bunch of free time. So that's the other aspect there. Is you have a lot of people wanting to learn tech so they can get jobs in tech now that they got laid off. So I think that's where I fit in. That's where people pay me $5 and I teach them. Your market has been saturated for years. Yeah. Do you think there'll be a need for developers if we have this many? I think so. I can't articulate it very well, but my feeling is yes. Obviously, like my answer should be yes for that, because like I'd be out of a job if people didn't want to learn how to code. But my unbiased opinion, I guess my biased opinion is that I think we'll always need developers. Yeah. Can we bounce back quick? I don't know. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I think we eventually will bounce back. Yeah. Have I done a survey to know what people want in coding courses? I've done a few, like on... I think I did a survey on Discord, and then I did one on Twitter as well. But what people and what my audience wants is intermediate courses, less beginner focused and more about like, okay, I've been a dev for a few years. How can I level up? Like, how can I be more of a senior developer, or like, how can I like write better code and stuff like that? So. That I know that's the kind of courses I eventually do want to create, but I want to create beginner courses first because I know there's a market for it. Like there's a lot more people that will buy a beginner course than there will like an intermediate course. But yeah. Can we finish the survey? Yeah, I'm almost done. Yeah, I'm my own boss, so I'm very unlikely to lay myself off. Okay, but all this to say, if you look at this React for Beginners course over its lifetime, I think this was released. When was this released? Does it tell us when it was released? 35,000 people have bought this course. And then if you look at the pricing, $44. I mean, some people paid full price for this. So like, Wes Boss drops a course and then he makes $1 million that year. Like that's basically where I want to be. I want to be in the same league as that. I am a man. That's my gender. Ethnicity. I am actually Hispanic. Like I don't speak Spanish and I don't have a lot of ties to my Hispanic heritage, but I on my mother's side, she is Mexican. So I am Hispanic. I also like I've also always I guess like identified as white, and I'm like somewhat white presenting. I'm like ambiguous, right? You look at me, you don't know, like, am I a white guy? Am I a what am I? And I've always like identified as white, but there was one time I Hispanic white passing. Yeah, so I think a lot of Latino people are that way. Especially like in America where they have like one Hispanic parent and one like white parent. But I've almost always just thought of myself as white until I had to go through airport security in Canada. And they immediately profiled me. I think maybe it was because of my mustache. Like I do think they thought I was like of Arab descent, and they gave me the rundown. Like they they searched through all of my luggage. They made me pull out my laptop and like turn it on to show them that my laptop wasn't a bomb. And I had to go. So this was I don't know if it's still this way, but in Canada airports, not every passenger doesn't have to go through the full body scanner like they do in the U.S. But because I got selected randomly, I had to go through that. But ever since then, I was like, okay, for some people, I am not white presenting. For some people, actually, I do look different. I do look ethnic. So randomly, yeah, that's my story about how I got profiled at a Canadian airport. So I am Hispanic. All that to say, I do not have any disabilities. How did I find out about this survey? Reviewed results from 2021 2020 survey. How could we improve this survey? I don't have it. I gotta go. Do I want to be notified when the survey results are released? Yeah, let me know. That's my email. All right, I'm gonna put my age in and then complete finished survey. Here we go. Wait, how old am I? Here we go. 94%. People know what my email is. Honestly, can we see that animation again? Let me see if I can run this. Wowie! You got the same score codex? Nice. So I've heard or used 33 out of 35 features mentioned in the survey, which puts me in the top 100% of all respondents. This can't be right. That means every respondent heard or used 33. Yeah, this is not right, right? That stat is wrong. Yeah, this stat is wrong, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm sure they'll figure it out. You didn't think I would do it, Timon? I've heard of a lot of stuff, and a lot of the stuff I proved that I knew what the stuff was before looking. Yeah, I guess we're technically always in the top percent. Out of all the respondents, you're definitely one of them. Cool. All right, should I share this on Twitter? I think I should screen cap it, right? I want it to be more of a square. right? Okay, let me tweet it, put the link, and then I gotta head out. But this was fun. Thank you everybody for participating and everything. Let's make a tweet. Yeah, I think honestly, that's another thing that the State of JS survey helps me with is like figuring out the things that I want to learn. So like learning more about animations, using more of the like meta frameworks and stuff like that. Yeah. So yeah. So the prediction I think got paid out, or did it? How do I? Oh, regardless, but I did it. I did. Okay. I was gonna make a joke about the 100% of all respondents. I don't know what joke to make. I'm just gonna tell people to go take the survey. Somebody effed up the math. I know things. See how much you know. Apparently, I know things. I don't know how to spell though. Apparently. Yeah, if everybody got 94%, then it is 100%. Right there. All right. Like, retweet, engage. This was fun. What will also be fun is reviewing the results. So whenever the results come out, we'll do another stream where we look through the results and then also try some things that we haven't tried before. So like maybe we'll try Fastify, or maybe we'll try Solid Start, stuff like that. I don't know. This was great. Tune in Friday. It's going to be a chill stream because we will be figuring out what we're going to be building for like the next 2 months. So if you tuned into Coding Garden before, every Friday we were working on the exact same project. We're going to try to do a similar thing, but we need to come up with what we're going to build. So if you check out the calendar, you can see when I go live. You can add it to your calendar. I also have a mailing list. I send out a notification every time I go live. And then we also have a Discord. I notify people there, so you can join that. That's it. That's all. Let's go on a raid. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. This was super fun. Look at the clip. Let's see. Oh, you've gotten multiple on the tree, haven't you? I didn't realize that you can get multiple on the tree and they all stay there. Where can we get a high five? I can give you a virtual one. Look, this is going to fill 3D. Like, look directly at your screen. High five. Okay. Let's go on a raid. If you are a sub, you can use this raid message. If you're not a sub, you can use this raid message. And everyone practice using the raid message now. Wherever we go, show them lots of love. Drop a follow if you like what they're doing. All of that good stuff. And I hope to see you all on Friday. So wherever you are in the world, have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or night. And until next time, here's this.